Ching-te of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, Hou You-yi of the main opposition party, the Kuomintang, and Wen-je of the Taiwan People's Party.
This pivotal election on January 13th will determine not just Taiwan's next president, but also the future of cross-strait relations with China, as well as the economic and political climates of the country. Taiwan Talks is bringing you the full 2 hours and 15 minutes of debates, translated in English, followed by a half-hour live panel here in TaiwanPlus studios. The three candidates have already held 3 policy announcements, conferences, but there has been no direct interaction or exchange between them. Today, we anticipate seeing them engage in direct debate with one another.
This election is proving to be a tight 3-way race, with many polls showing Lai Ching-te maintaining a slight lead ahead of Hou You-yi of the Kuomintang and Wen-je of the Taiwan People's Party.
In the first hour of the debates, the candidates will have 8 minutes each to present their candidacy, followed by a combined 35 minutes media question and answer session.
In the second hour of the debate, each candidate will get the chance to grill each other. Let's now go directly to the feed of Taiwan's presidential TV debate, moderated by Public Television Studios Chairman Wen-je.
民主进步党总统候选人赖清德先生
Mr. Lai Ching-te from DPP.
第二位是中国
The
国民
second
党
candidate,
总统候选人
Mr.
侯友
Hou
宜先
You-yi
生
from KMT.
第三位
Our
是
third
台湾
candidate,
民众党总统候选人柯文哲
Mr.
先生
Wen-je from TPP.
今天的辩论会一
The
共
televised
分为
debate
4个
will
程
be
序
conducted in 4
依序
sessions.
是候选人
They
申
are
论
the first
媒体
session,
提问
where the candidates will make their constructive speeches, and then media outlet questions and cross-examination, and then the
这一次的
conclusions.
辩论会有11个媒
This
体
presidential
共同
debate
举办
is co-hosted by 11 media outlets. Please allow me to introduce
包
them
括
all.
中央社、
There are
中国时报、
Central News Agency,
自由时报
China Times, Liberty
联合报
Times, United Daily
三
News,
立、
and
台视
SETN,
中视、
TTV,
华视
and
静电
also
视
the
TVBS
Mirror TV,
以及公视。
TVBS, and
今天参与辩论会的
TBS.
5位提问代表
And the 5 media
在这里
outlet
先
presentation
跟大家做个介绍。
representatives are also here with us today.
第一位是台视资
The
深
first
主播
is from
吴凯文女
TTV,
士，
Wu Kai-wen, Miss
第
Wu
二位
Kai-wen.
是
The
三
second
立电视资深
representative
主
is
持人
from
吕慧
SETN,
明女士，
Liu Huimin,
第
Miss
三
Liu
位是
Huimin.
静电视
And then we
资深
have
主播廖芳杰女士，
Miss Liao Fangjie from
第四位
Mirror
是
TV.
中国时报
The fourth
执行副总编辑周慧茹女士，
Miss Zhou Huiru
第五位
from
是
China
中
Times.
央
The
社
fifth,
总编辑王世杰先生。
Mr. Wang Shijie from Central
辩
News
论会就
Agency.
要开始了，
Now we are going to kick off our
我
presidential
要再
debate.
借这个机会提醒
By
三位
taking
候
this
选人必须
opportunity, I
注
would
意
like
的
to
辩论规
remind
则。
our 3 candidates
本次
there
辩
are
论
things
会
that you need to
全
remind
程
that you need to
不会按您
remember.
干扰。
There will be no
候选人
bells
您的前方
throughout your
有计时器。
presentation or speech. There's timer
时间一到，
right in front of you. When your time
麦
is
克风
up,
会在5秒
your
内
mic will be
缓慢消音。
muted within 5 seconds.
也要提醒在场
And I
的
would also
贵
like
宾，
to
在辩
remind
论过程
the
中保持
audience
安
here
静，
with us today,
不要
please
鼓
remain
掌、
silent,
鼓噪。
do not clap
好，
or yell.
我们今天
And now
辩论会的
we are going
第一
to
个程序，
officially commence our
在
presidential
进行之
debate.
前，我们要先请
Now,
3
I would
位
like to
总统
ask
候
our
选人
3
到台
presidential
前来
candidates
握手
to
之意。
approach the center of the stage and shake hands with one another.
请现场贵宾以热烈
Ladies
的
and
掌声
gentlemen, please give our
来
presidential
为他们加
candidates
油。
a round of applause.
Thank
you to our 3 candidates. I
I
think they have displayed the courtesy and spirit of democracy. I would now like to kindly ask them to return to their podiums. Our presidential debate will now proceed to the first session, where the candidates will make their constructive speeches. According to our lot drawing, the first one who will take the podium is Mr. Lai Ching-te from Democratic Progressive Party, and you have 8 minutes. Please start.
Moderator, Mayor Ho, Chairperson Ke, members of the press, my fellow countrymen watching on television and also online, good afternoon. Good afternoon to all of you. So we have had 3 platform discussions. I've listened to all the policy forums closely, especially to what my opponents have shared. Mayor Ho, a lot of the statements that he has made, it belongs to the past era. For example, now we're talking about 2024, and he still talks about the 92 consensus. The global economic landscape has shifted already, and he is talking about the service and trade agreement. And now renewable energy, it has already surpassed the generation from nuclear power, and he's talking about restarting nuclear power plant number 4. So it shows that he is only stick to the past. He is not prepared. As for Chairperson Ko, very often he just talks without action. During the 3 policy forums, I see that he has made a number of statements, but for me, it sounds so familiar. I realize that actually these are what our current administration is doing. For example, public finance discipline. President Tsai has already cut down debt by 900 billion. And also social housing. When I served as premier, I have a social housing center. And now, according to the central government, all of our central government social housing units has exceeded that in local government. So I see copy and paste. I will look at that as a kind of a praise of Chairman Ko of this administration. So my dear fellow citizens, we should let go of those outdated policies, and we should continue to work on our current efforts. We see that it's already a new page in history. The world is undergoing drastic changes. As a head of the state, we must seize these opportunities. We must take action. We must have the determination to present a blueprint for the country, to persuade the country in moving forward. And that is why I have the national project of hope. I want to build a peace and democracy in Taiwan. I will not go back. We will not go back to an authoritarian regime. I will boost our democracy as well as our defense capabilities and economic security. And I'm welcome to all kinds of talks with those across the strait. And I am determined to advance the mutual interest across the Taiwan Strait. I am determined to maintain the peaceful status quo, and I'm also determined to contribute to the peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. I want to create a prosperous Taiwan. During the KMT administration, we had economic stagnation, and that is the past. From 2018 onwards, we have seen a return of Taiwanese businesses. We have seen higher stock index as well as increased investment from our FDIs. We hope to bring innovation to Taiwan. We want to make Taiwan a stronger society. We'd also like to utilize the dual engine of growth, both in digital transition and green transition, to make Taiwan more intelligent and sustainable. I would also like to bring justice and sustainability to Taiwan. In the past, a lot of these burdens are left on households, but over the last 8 years, President Tsai has invested significantly to the society, to a social safety net. Based on this foundation, I would like to work on 0 to 6 childcare as well as the long-term care 3.0 program. Would like to ease the caretaking burdens among all the households. We want to support the parents, we want to support the elderly, and I want to support the younger generation. We have this special grant for young people to study abroad. I also want to focus on education equality, as well as the 3 major policies related to housing justice. We want to accompany our citizens across different stages of life. 2024, the presidential election, it is very consequential. We have received global attention. This is a choice between democracy and autocracy. The world is very clear that only Lai and Bi Kim, we are the only candidates who can stand together with our democratic allies. Mayor Ho, pro-China policy, or chairperson Ko's two sides, one family. There's so many uncertainties regarding their policies, and this is not the path we want to take. Especially if KMT returns to power. This means that there's going to be a return of the service in trade agreement. We are going to see a lot of these Chinese students coming to Taiwan. That's going to have a huge impact on our labor market. This is going to have a huge impact on all the different industries in the economy. And this will cause a lot of uncertainties and concerns. If the KMT returns to power, we will see a return of the black gold politics. We see that the Luo's family in Ching-te, the Xie family in Changhua, all the different local fractions in different parts of Taiwan, even the Fu family in Hualien. We see all these different fractions as well as gangster syndicates. If KMT returns to power, the gangster syndicates, the organized crimes will also be causing a lot of damage to our society. And this is going to be very detrimental. And also, if KMT returns to power, all of our defense efforts will take a halt. When I served at the Congress, I have witnessed that experience. I have seen how KMT has boycotted 69 times a lot of our defense procurement proposals. So if KMT returns to power, all of our efforts over the last 8 years in enhancing our defense capabilities will be coming to a halt. And here we see that we have our national defense capabilities, our Brave Eagle jet trainer, as well as our indigenous submarine. All of these plans are in great progress. We have already launched the first phase of our indigenous submarine. But if KMT returns to power, everything will stop. Not just the 8 submarines, even the first submarine will not be able to push it forward. So this election is not just about the future of Taiwan, about the security of the Indo-Pacific region. It is also relevant to all of our lives. And that is why we must pick the right person, walk the right path. Me, Kim, and myself, we have the experience, we have the capability, we have the determination to lead Taiwan forward on the path of democracy, to walk into the world, to embrace the future. So here I would like your support on January 13. Please come out and vote. Please vote for us. Number 2, the Lai Xiao ticket. Please also support all the legislator candidates from the Democratic Alliance, as well as number 6 for your party ticket. Thank you.
We would like to invite Mr. Hou Youyi from KMT for his 8 minutes presentation.
Moderator, Chairman Ko, Chairman Lai, all of the citizens, our good friends, good afternoon to everyone. When it comes to the policy forums in the past and also today's debate, I can see Mr. Lai Ching-te. He is all about words. He does not reflect on himself. He doesn't review his own mistakes. He always blames other people. Can this be sustainable? Chairman Lai, is it really that difficult for you to apologize? Is it really that difficult? Today, I think what you have said, I just really need to clarify. When it comes to your policies, you have done so many wrong things. Let me share with you some of the policies. I would like to ask you some questions, whether you're doing a good job or not. Have you addressed these problems? These are the questions from the public. First, when it comes to the solar PV scandal, and also you are not able to achieve the nuclear-free homeland. And also we see the egg scandal and the failing of the promise of food safety, and also fraud, and also the forward-looking project and leaving debt to the future generation, and also the great shortage of water and electricity, and also you are leading a autocratic government, and also you failed to commit your commitment to residential justice, and also cross-strait situation is very tense, and also low salary for young people, and also there are so many corruption cases under the DPP government. So these 10 questions are really important. And I think these are the reasons why I would like to run for president. When it comes to disease prevention, as we all know, in the past, when I was mayor of New Taipei City, there were 3 years where that was the time when the pandemic was really serious, especially in New Taipei City. We thought that preventing disease is just like fighting in a war. However, we need to unite together and save every life. Every citizen's life matters to me. However, during the pandemic, the DPP government only think about politics, only think about their political interest. They only think about their party interest. When I made suggestions, well, because I was a mayor representing the KMT, they didn't listen to us at all. So when the problem really became really serious, in the beginning of the pandemic, I said people should wear face masks. However, we didn't have enough face masks. And the DPP government said, well, for healthy people, do not wear face masks. And I said, when people entering the border of Taiwan, we need to have the screening. And the DPP government didn't do so. So we do see greater casualties. And next, not just that, if you are positive in a screening, you are seen as confirmed. But they only use the numbers to fool the people. So instead of providing help to the citizens every day on the media, on the internet, the DPP government has been using cyber attacks against me. So we do see the loss of lives one after another. This is what you owe to the people. I will never forget what you have done. So I went to the funeral. I saw so many people. So they were burned down. They were incinerated in a cemetery. And I see the urns carrying the ashes. So in the front, we see the name of the deceased. Actually, they don't have the time to think about that. That was really sad. We don't even have proper treatment of those deceased, because the whole family were under quarantine. No one could go to the place to send the deceased. Think about that. If the deceased is your father, mother, or son, what are you going to do? You will feel guilty for the rest of your life. Seeing all these have happened, I really want to cry, because these are my close people. I hold them close to my heart. So I just told them you need to show that it burn incenses for the deceased and to send them the last in the journey of their life, and like get them fruits and flowers with all the good friends present. So I just want to ask Vice President Lai the question. When New Taipei City was facing greatest difficulties, have you ever come and provide comfort? So have you ever called President Tsai? You just said that the peak has passed. You never ask what we need. Well, actually, now we see the number of confirmed people has dropped. Well, actually, we know it's about time for us to stay united. It's not about time for us to make arguments. However, you have never called me as mayor of Taipei. You are from New Taipei. You're from Wanli. You don't care about people from your same hometown. People of New Taipei City are also citizens of the Republic of China. You care about your home, but you don't care about the citizens living in New Taipei. During the pandemic, when people are in grave danger, me, for what I do, I just want to do one thing. I want to stand together with the people. I want to feel their pain. I'm always hold them close to my heart. I feel their misery. At that time, what do I really detest? Well, actually, some businesses are still trying to make profit because we are facing shortage of vaccines and also masks. The bad business people are still trying to make money out of these businesses. We have seen so many scandals related to the DPP. We ask you questions. No one gave us a satisfactory answer. So that's why I stress that if I become president, I will establish a new special investigation division. I will investigate every scandal, despite political parties, despite your position. If I need to investigate, I will do so. We need to create social justice. So at this moment, every day, you try to smear me. You say that I'm pro-China. Later, I will explain clearly to you. Do not use these dirty tricks. What I really hope is that people of Taiwan can achieve cross-strait peace. So communication and exchange is what we need to do, because you didn't do that. So that's why we see grave danger across the Taiwan Strait. Do not put Taiwanese people into danger. Also, you don't want to give up on Taiwan independence. And you said the Republic of China is a legendary. You detest, you despise our country. Actually, our country raised you. Our country is our root. This is not trusting Taiwan. This is hurting Taiwan. Seriously, I think you are so ungrateful. Among the three candidates I oppose, one country, two systems, I oppose Taiwan independence. I adhere to the democratic and free system of Taiwan, and the future of Taiwan should be determined by the 23 million people. Ching-te supports Taiwan independence. Chairman Ko never really clarifies his position. So right here, we need to maintain security.
Thank you. And now we are going to have Mr. Wen-je from Taiwan People's Party for his time in 8 minutes.
Moderator, Mr. Lai, Mr. Ho, ladies and gentlemen, whether you are watching on TV or watching live streaming, good afternoon. The 2024 presidential election for the Taiwanese people, it's a historic time. It's about choosing new politics or old politics. You want to choose a clean government or a government that is bound by ideology. Are you choosing rationality, pragmatism, and science, or just pure ideology? Just now, Mr. Lai told us what it means to be smearing and to be lying. Well, in Taiwan, how come there's a surplus of 900 billion? It's because you don't count special budget as part of the budget. And because of this kind of accounting tricks, that means that you have the so-called surplus. Of course, the government cannot be right all the time, but please just tell us the truth. And also, just now, you mentioned social housing. Just tell us two things. How many have you started and how many have you completed? You've planned how many, but how many have been completed? Just tell us. And you also said that you are going to interact with China in a dignified way. Now, that's what I'm doing too. So how come you are smearing me? And you also said that our party is only my party, but we also have collective decision making, okay? Last year, you lost in the local elections because you are also a party of just one person. And also you talked about KMT, mayors and commissioners and so on. Well, you are only thinking about using people. When you want to use them, you praise them. But now you don't want to use them anymore. And now you say that they are doing pork barrel politics. So that's what you're saying. You should not only think about short-term gains. You should not think about party interests. That's the principle. So from 2000 and now, both the DPP and the KMT have disappointed people. So we need change. We want the KMT and the DPP to learn to be humble. People are the masters of the country. We have to win back the country. And this year, the keyword chosen by the people for this year is shortage. Now, we are facing a lot of shortage. We have shortage of water, power, toilet paper, eggs, and so on. Everything is in shortage. President Tsai Ing-wen previously said that President Ma Ying-jeou was not doing it right, and he failed young people. But what about you? It's the same thing. And now there are also a lot of scams. I've received a lot of scam calls. In 2012, when the DPP came into power, people thought that you would be a government of humility. But now we see that you are the same as the KMT and probably even more corrupt than the KMT. So you are sacrificing people's interests. And this is why over 60% of people want a new government. If you are doing everything right, how come people want a new government? Now we have the lowest birth rate in the world. We have aging population, and also industrial transformation is very slow, and housing prices are extremely high. From 2000 to now, Taiwan's GDP grew by 120%, but wages only grew by 4%. Our working hours are also the 6th highest in the world, and also our health insurance is going bankrupt and so on. So you said that you are you're repaying debts. How come we have higher debt levels than ever? And when you were the premier of Taiwan, you talked about clean coal and so on. And you also want young people to work more, but without pay. People are feeling very worried because there are so many uncertainties. And this is why we see a lot of uncertainties and also instability. So I want to ask these two candidates. Your parties have been in power for so long, but division, hatred is everywhere. Is that what people want? When I announced my candidacy in May, I already said that I wanted Taiwan to be an Ilha Formosa, a beautiful island, but not the most dangerous place in the world, as said by some foreign media. And I want Taiwan to be a bridge between the US and China rather than a pawn in the rivalry. I want Taiwan to be a united society rather than a divided society. More importantly, I want Taiwan to have a clean, a good government rather than a government that is always chanting slogans and also throwing money around and creating hatred. Because of geopolitical concerns, Taiwan is now receiving a lot of attention, and I also believe that Taiwan needs to have credible deterrence. We want to ensure that the Taiwanese people can continue to live in a free, democratic society. So Taiwan autonomy and cross-strait peace are the key, and we also need to win international support. We face a lot of challenges. We need to have TSMC, but we need to have more than TSMC. We have to think about nuclear issues. But of course, we cannot just say that I don't want nuclear energy at all. And also, we have to think about the net zero by 2050 target. We ask young people to be brave, to be courageous, but people of my generation need to be even braver so that we can create a good environment for young people. Taiwan held its first presidential election in 1996, so it's been there have been 7 editions, and it's an opportunity for us this time to have a new government that is not the DPP or the KMT. Taiwan needs to rise above this kind of a division. We need to have long-term planning to have a just society, to have good governance. We need to give our people a harmonious and a peaceful Taiwan. I was a surgeon for 30 years. As a doctor, I believe that every life matters. Every life needs to be respected. And I've been a politician for 10 years, and my principle has always been the same. I treat everybody the same. Only Wen-je focuses on meritocracy. Only Wen-je is honest and is willing to tackle problems. Only Wen-je has good execution. I'm not bound by ideology. I don't have legacy burdens. Ladies and gentlemen, in this upcoming election, it's not just an election to elect your president. It's an election that would choose the path for Taiwan. So next year, please be courageous. Do not continue to elect the DPP or the KMT. So let's work together for Taiwan.
Thank you. And now we are moving on to the next session, the media outlet questions. There will be 5 media outlet representatives, and they will have 1 minute to ask questions towards our 3 candidates, and they will take turns answering the question in 2 minutes. Now, according to our lot drawing, we will have Ms. Wu Kai-wen from TTV to ask your first question. Vice President Lai, Mayor Ho, and Chairperson Ko, I would like to ask you about the Taiwan-US relationship because it really matters to us. You believe that we should maintain good US-Taiwan relationship. However, a lot of people have been questioning about our path, and it's about steadfast and creating a trust relationship. However, Vice President Lai mentioned that you will maintain the old path of President Lai, and Mayor Ho said that you will stay in the middle. And also, Mayor Ko also talked about the similar things. So, under such a circumstance where the US and China is still fighting fiercely, where's the room for Taiwan? How are you going to wave between these three countries? Thank you. Vice President Lai will take the stage.
Thank you for this question. President Tsai's foreign policy has already received global recognition. Out of the three candidates, I'm the most experienced, and I'm the one who can continue her approach, to continue to bring Taiwan into the world and garner global support. So President Tsai's approach is to prioritize Taiwan. It is different from the old KMT way. Based on human rights, democracy, and freedom, we stand with global allies. In the future, based on this foundation, I will continue her approach, and especially my VP, Bi Kim, as the ambassador in Taiwan, in the United States, we will continue this approach. Mayor Ho criticized me using 10 different items. We have already responded it, so I will not delve deep into it. As for what Mayor Ho mentioned, he said that my remarks about the Republic of China, you can go back to look at the recordings. The Constitution of ROC is the sacred mountain of protection. This is what you said. So you should go back to the recordings. The Constitution, the saying of yours is really absurd, and you should go back to the recordings. You are the mayor of New Taipei City. I understand that at that time, the entire team, we really worked really hard to fight against the pandemic. You are at the front line, and we were supporting New Taipei City as well as all the other cities in fighting the pandemic. But please don't just easily brush away all of our efforts. Chairman Ko, again, you're just words. You look at the performance in Taipei City. Even for special budget, according to law, there's the actual way of doing all the public finance numbers, and you can see how we have improved.
And now, Mayor Ho, please.
If President Tsai's path is so good, how come we lost 9 diplomatic allies? If it's good, how would this happen? How come both sides across the Taiwan Strait do not have dialogue and communication? So the whole world now see the Taiwan Strait as the most dangerous place in the world. We can see now military service in Taiwan will extend to 1 year. Also, a lot of fighter jets from China has been flying close to Taiwan. If her path is viable, then the whole world will not pay so much attention to the security across the Taiwan Strait. Allow me to respond to Chairman Lai. Over the past 8 years, DPP is still having a lot of scandals and corruption. You do not investigate in these cases. Also, when talking about ECFA, even until now, have you stopped ECFA? No. You still rely on China for 35% of our trade. Also talking about direct flight across the Taiwan Strait. We know that some people say that if ECFA happens, then men will not lose jobs, women will not have husbands. Does that really happen? No. We are trying to work hard, but you say we are pro-China. And when talking about employment for mainland Chinese students, what I say is that we need to follow the current practice, but you're smearing me, saying the otherwise. Why would you do that? Today, I also want to respond to Chairman Ko. I adopt the middle way approach of Taiwan that is in line with the ROC Constitution. The Constitution is not a legend. It's what's happening now. I started my career as a civil servant. I have rise to different positions. So in terms of my job, I always maintain neutrality. I want to serve my country and serve the people.
Right. I've already said that I also support President Tsai Ing-wen's diplomatic approach. So the key word is diplomatic approach. But her cross-strait and also domestic policies are a mess. The framework is currently China-US rivalry. That's not going to change. Cross-strait issues are not just between Taiwan and China, but also between the US and China. So Taiwan has to find a balance in this framework. From 2018 to 2023, the US strategy has also changed. In 2018, Trump took office. He tried to disconnect from China. So there was the trade war and also the tech war. But after a while, Trump realized that this will not work because it's a very globalized world already. That's not going to change overnight. This is why in the beginning of this year, the US changed from decoupling to de-risking. That's the change. And recently, Antony Blinken also said something that I think is worth thinking about. He said the US will work with China when necessary, will compete when necessary, and will also confront each other when necessary. I think that's the same for us. We have to cooperate whenever necessary, but we also have to confront China whenever necessary. The thing is, the DPP is always taking a very confrontational attitude, whereas the KMT is always thinking about cooperation. So I think that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just think about how Taiwan can maximize its interest in the current framework. So ECFA, we cannot abolish it, but we have to think about how to de-risk.
The next question will come from SETM. Please welcome Ms. Liu Huiming. Hello, everyone. So President Xi Jinping said that the 1992 consensus means that the two sides of the straits belong to the same China. So, Mr. Ho, your 1992 consensus, is this also the same thing? Now, please forget about constitutions. Now, President Ma mentioned there's no dependency or military wars, and you did not stand against unification. So you talked about making allowances for each other. So in the context of the cross-strait relations, however, we do not see your policy. You talk about the two sides belong to one family. So who owns the house? Who's running the household? Now, Vice President Lai, you mentioned that you're not happy about the status quo of cross-strait relations. How are you going to avoid conflicts between the two straits? So which country is threatening Taiwan? Thank you. Please welcome Mr. Ho.
Thank you for your question. Lai Ching-te's cross-strait policy is always ambiguous, just like he's making jokes. He said he wants to have bubble tea with Xi Jinping. I don't know what he was talking about. Next, Wen-je talked about both sides of Taiwan Strait belongs to one family. My attitude is very clear. Today, the middle path of Taiwan, that is to oppose Taiwan independence. Also, we follow the free and democratic system of Taiwan. I oppose one country, two systems. All of the consensus has to follow the ROC Constitution and the Act governing the relations between the people of the Taiwan area and the mainland area. This will be the founding foundation. This is what we have been doing. Do not confuse the 1992 consensus is what has been said by DPP. The 1992 consensus is different from the one country, two system adopted by China. It's not like that. The future of Taiwan has to be determined by the 23 million people of Taiwan. More importantly, we have mutual non-recognition of sovereignty and mutual non-denial of governing authority. By having this condition under the ROC Constitution, we want to have peaceful dialogue and exchanges so that we can de-escalate. I have stressed that in order to lower the risk, we need to use strength to ensure peace. Strength means we have to improve our defense capability and self-defense capability. Deterrence will be our priority. Without deterrence, whatever you say, nothing works. That's the first. Secondly, why do we need to have dialogue? That is because so far cross-strait do not have any dialogue. So that's why we see what's happening. So we should start with the low politics. That is, we should have the dialogue between religious or cultural groups, and step by step, then we can have official exchanges and communication. By building mutual trust, we can lower the risk. That is the escalation.
Mr. Mayor Ko, please. You have 2 minutes.
The so-called two sides, one family, it's to show your goodwill. In the current stage, I also feel that we have to say to China that, of course, we have same language, same history, same culture. But currently, we do not have the same lifestyles or political systems. So for cross-strait relations, we want Taiwan autonomy and cross-strait peace. We have to tell China that our bottom line is that Taiwan needs to maintain the current democracy and freedom and also lifestyle. That's the bottom line. And we also need the 5 mutual principles: to know, understand, respect, cooperate with, and also the most importantly, to make allowances for each other. I organized 8 twin city forums and also 1 universiad. And behind all these events, there were a lot of negotiations. The universiad was very successful, and it also raised Taiwan's international visibility. So that shows a good example of how we could work with each other. But in Taichung, the youth games didn't happen. So in a very difficult environment, we have to think about how to find a way to deal with it. I talked about Blinken's vision. We can do that. We compete, we cooperate, we confront with each other whenever necessarily. Of course, sports, cultural, and also religious exchanges, I think these are less contentious. Economic, I mean, we can still work with each other. Politically, perhaps the cooperation will be difficult. So we should start from what is easier. Of course, I think that China is also facing a lot of problems. China is facing deflation because it has economic issues. Now we have to think about how to
Vice President Light, you
work
have
with each
2
other.
minutes.
Thank you for this question. So not just in Taiwan, but globally, looking at Taiwan, our largest threat comes from the People's Republic of China. And together with Kim, once we leave the country, we will be the leadership that are most prepared. During my earlier presentation, I've already made it clear. I will unite the country, boost our defense capabilities, our economic security, and also work with democratic allies. And based on dignity and parity, we are open to exchange and dialogue to seek for the mutual interest and peace across the Taiwan Strait. But it's really saddening to hear what Ke has mentioned. We lost 9 diplomatic allies. We're not able to engage in talks. Chairman Ke blames that on Taiwan. He does not blame it on China. According to Chairperson Ke, DPP and all the efforts, it is a kind of ideological measure. This is actually showing his lack of belief and trust in Taiwan. Chairman Ke, if you say that admitting 92 consensus is the middle way for Taiwan, I don't think that is the majority consensus in our society. And if you oppose one country, 2 system, then you should not admit the 92 consensus. This is very direct. You say that you do not accept one country, 2 system. You are taking the middle way. You are safeguarding Taiwan. This is really contradicting. So here, we should unite our country. In face of the threat from China, we should unite together. Globally, it is also very clear, and we already have countermeasures. We know that we must invest in building our own strength. We should work together to ensure peace.
Our third question will come from Mirror TV. Ms. Liao Fangjie, please. Good afternoon, our three candidates. Recently, you have some disputes with regards to your real estate. Of course, you have handled the problems. However, we are seeing such disputes being heated off. So how are you going to handle this problem going forward? Of course, you have received a lot of social attention because people are longing for social justice and housing justice. But this also shows that there's a widening gap between the rich and poor. A lot of the people did not get the benefit of the high developed technology and the economic benefits. So if you are elected as president, how are you going to improve this? Also, if you would like to improve this, you will need parliamentary cooperation. However, according to our estimation, there is no majority seats that will be held by any party. So if such thing happens, how are you going to solve the problem when you're elected? Mr. Wen-je, your time, 2 minutes. Thank you.
So first of all, I want to respond to Mr. Lai. Again, he's smearing the party. When did I say I accept the 1992 consensus? Where did you see this? And also, it's like the late Qing dynasty. In the face of Western powers, in Japan, they had the Meiji Restoration. But in China, of course, China is a threat to Taiwan, but the DPP is taking Taiwan on a dangerous path regarding the wealth gap, the 21st century capitalism. I mean, this book is very clear. It's easier to make money with money. This is why the wealth gap is widening. That's why we need to have higher income tax brackets for the wealthy. That's very easy. It's not about theory, it's about execution. And that's what this country is lacking. Everybody can say what they want to do. And also, what about the majority seats in the legislature? When I was the mayor of Taipei, we didn't have majority seats, but does that mean that I was not able to push my policies? No, because I had the power of execution, but both the DPP and the KMT are doing a lot of useless things. When I was the mayor of Taipei, TPP, my party, only had 1 seat in the city council, but it was not a problem for me. And also, there are a lot of smear campaigns. Previously, my father used my name to purchase a plot. In the last 15 years, there was no further transactions, there was no rezoning, so there's no speculation to speak of. And in the last 15 years, I did not make profits, I pay my taxes. 3 years ago, someone rented the plot to a bus company, and I would just follow the law.
Mr. Lai, your turn. You have 2 minutes, please.
Thank you, Ms. Liao, for your question. So out of the 3 candidates, I'm the only one that is not a land speculator. And I care a lot for housing justice, especially for the young generation. And that is why I have already disclosed my policy. The first is the multi-house tax 2.0. We want to make sure that all the land speculators will be curtailed, and we have already passed that legislation in Congress. Secondly, I will provide the youth home loans. Originally, it was 8 million. We have increased it to 10 million. We have also increased the interest subsidy to 0.375%. I'm also working very hard on social housing. Over the last 8 years, including the newly constructed homes and the subleased from private owners, we see we have reached the target of 200,000 social housing units. You look at the total numbers, 120,000 newly constructed homes, 80,000 subleased from and managed by private owners. We are able to deliver our promise. And once I lead the government, we will have newly constructed homes, 130,000 in total, 300,000 units. We are very determined in this area. Here, I would also like to raise a question to my opponents. In Taiwan, you say that you're able to engage in all kinds of negotiations, dialogues with the other side of the strait. But tell us, what's the price that we will have to pay? Are we going to give in our sovereignty? Are we going to admit and accept the preconditions, the political demands of one country, two system? That is the root of the problem. If you don't give in your sovereignty, if you don't agree with the preconditions, how are you able to achieve these statements that you have made?
Mr. Ho, your time, you have 2 minutes, please.
Mr. Lai Ching-te just said that when they become the leader of the country, they will have the lowest risk, and he will follow President Tsai's path. Actually, we all know that everybody is really scared. We're all terrified. If you ask people on the street, are you worried that there may be war? Actually, Mr. Lai still supports Taiwan independence. You're not saying because it's election season. You just said about, you just beat around the bush. But actually, at the end of the day, you have already said that you are a pragmatic worker of Taiwan independence, despite of which position you will never change your mind. This is what you have said. But now you're changing your statement. So people of Taiwan just want to know exactly what your position is. When talking about residential justice, I've heard about the new youth mortgage, but for me, I will provide a policy of free of down payment so that we don't want to lower the burden on the young people. When they buy the house, they will not be able to pay the down payment. The government will provide a guarantee. So we will provide a 15 million NT dollars of down payment for the young people. But for your mortgage program, you have a lot of restrictions like exclusion of the wealth and so on and so forth. But my policy will complement your policy. Now talking about the property scandal, I just want to make it clear. I always make it clear. From Kaishan Yuan or to the piece of land in Xinjiang in New Taipei, I'm not trying to jack up the land prices. I just want to make it clear I pay taxes, everything is legal, and I have declared my property according to the law. Now, you're talking about a piece of land in Xinjiang. To be honest, all these are the old houses. And actually, we just try to resolve the problem.
Our fourth question will come from China Times. Ms. Zhou Huiru, please. So we have heard our three candidates talking about their cross-strait relations policy. Now I would like to focus on constitutions. So on behalf of China Times, I would like to ask our three candidates. First, do you believe in the ROC constitutions? Now, under our context of the constitution, we have a definition of our territory, and there's also the unification text. And it says China, mainland China and Taiwan belongs to the one Republic China. So that means the territory of the mainland China belongs to ROC. Do you believe in that? And also, according to our discussion, we can also ask you, now the cross-strait relations actually is determined by the mainland China and Taiwan, who is ruled by the Taiwan, Penghu, and Kinmen. So according to my statements, please tell me what you think about this issue. And also, please tell us your view on cross-strait relationship in the future. Please, Mr. William Lai, your time, please.
Thank you. So the Constitution is the foundation for the country. It is also the main instrument that protects the basic rights. When we talk about the Constitution, we have to talk about the protection of human rights. And that is why democracy and a liberal constitutional system is so critical. You look at the Constitution formulated in 1946, you're going to be so disappointed when you review it. At that time, during President Li Denghui, he has embarked on 6 rounds of amendment. And now we are looking at the additional provisions. And this is centered around the development of Taiwan. Under these circumstances, if the Constitution or other legal instruments, if we can unite the country, of course we have to adopt them. But if we want to use it to resolve cross-strait affairs and issues, this is a separate question. China, the People's Republic of China, has never admitted the existence of the ROC. It is very clear. There's only one China in the world, and both sides of the strait belong to PRC. And the only legal entity is the PRC. So here in Taiwan, you say that the Constitution is our sacred mountain of protection. I really don't know how that is going to protect Taiwan. We have bid farewell to the authoritarian regime. We have finally embarked on our democratization path. We are not going backwards. With courage, we should forge ahead. Under my watch, I will unite the country and I will identify a pathway for all of us that will safeguard our nation, safeguard the well-beings of all our people.
Now, Mr. Ho, your time, you have 2 minutes, please.
The ROC Constitution is always engraved in my heart. Ever since I joined the police academy, what I learned from the academy is that country, justice, honor, all these are my unwavering beliefs. Whatever I do, I just want to protect the safety of people of Taiwan so that people can live a good life. So defending the ROC, I will never change my position. So this is a very clear statement of me. I oppose one country, two systems. I always need to ensure free and democratic system of Taiwan. As what I've said, what we need to do is to follow the ROC Constitution. Back in 1992, under the talk that happened between both sides of the street in Hong Kong, so we have the mutual non-recognition of sovereignty and mutual non-denial of governing authority so that we can start the cross-strait negotiation. We do have this good foundation. You didn't do it, but now you're always talking about the bad things about cross-strait negotiation. You're doing nothing. So under the DPP government, you have been stigmatizing the cross-strait negotiation. So one country, two system is not a suitable description of the real situation across the Taiwan Strait. The Republic of China will always follow the principles of three people. That is very clear. So the future of Taiwan will be determined by the 23 million people of Taiwan. So today, having heard Chairman Lai regarding his understanding of our Constitution, he doesn't really take the Constitution seriously. He's vice president of the Constitution. If you respect the Constitution, you should speak it out. Do not hide your real thinking.
Now, Mr. Ko, it's your turn. You have 2 minutes, please.
So the three of us standing here, we are here to run for the Republic of China president. We are not running for the governor of a U.S. state or a provincial head of China. So of course we have to abide by the ROC Constitution. So you ask me whether we identify or support the Constitution. Of course we do. Otherwise, we will not be standing here. So we have to support the ROC Constitution. The ROC Constitution and the cross-strait people's interactions, we also have regulations that govern the interactions between the peoples of Taiwan and China. So I abide by the laws. Before we change our laws, we have to follow the laws. But I understand that laws have to serve people, not the other way around. We want Taiwan to be a country that has the rule of law. So that's the principle. The ROC Constitution, does our territory cover mainland China? The answer is yes, according to the ROC Constitution. It's just that now we have the so-called free region and mainland China. So this issue, of course, in Taiwan, there are a lot of debates. We, in fact, talk to people in the US and Japan. Currently, there's no way we can move towards unification or formal independence. According to surveys in Taiwan, 3% of people support unification, 7% support independence, and 90% support the status quo. So that's the key. 90% want status quo. In the last 30 years, the KMT and the DPP have spent a lot of time talking about something that cannot be resolved, and that's a waste of time, and that's also a reason why Taiwan is what it is now. So status quo is our
fifth
choice.
question from the media will be raised by CNA. Mr. Wang-je, please. Dear three candidates, on behalf of CNA, China has never ceased to stop their unification warfare, and we have seen many interference. And we have seen many retired military officials and higher executive officials recruited and maybe bribed by the Chinese government. However, according to our existing laws, the standard to rectify this law is very strict, and the penalty is very light. So how are you going to do this? So will you perceive China as a hypothetical enemy? And also, are you going to, or do you uphold the fact that we are going to strengthen the penalty? Thank you. Please welcome Mr. Ho, please.
Right here, let me clearly tell you, I oppose the interference of Taiwan's election from external forces. Taiwan is a free and democratic country. We need to be confident. We need to protect our country. We do not allow foreign interference. Today, we have seen that during the election, many people have been prosecuted under the Anti-Infiltration Act when people travel to mainland China, and they are under investigation. So I really hope that justice should exert its function, and it should not be a political tool. If we follow the law, that should be right. However, if you're just going to China for traveling to have a meal, but you are arrested, but Zhao Tianling, he is a legislator. When he goes to China, he's fine. Mr. Lai Ching-te, back in 2017, you also went to mainland China. Have you been treated by the locals when you travel to mainland China? A lot of representatives from DPP send you off to mainland China, but now you are upholding double standards. Today, on this occasion, let me ask Chairman Lai, how are you going to continue this path? The U.S. does not support Taiwan independence. Scholars from the U.S. encourage DPP to freeze the Taiwan independence clause. How are you going to explain that your position when it comes to whether you pro or you're against Taiwan independence? Is that in line with the U.S. position? We all know that you are a Taiwan independence worker. Chairman Ko talks about maintaining the status quo. The status quo is not the status quo under the DPP government. We see the status quo that is on the verge of war. We need the KMT to stabilize the situation across the Taiwan Strait so that we can pro the U.S. and be friends with China.
Now, Mr. Ko, your time. You have 2 minutes.
Taiwan autonomy, cross-strait peace. That's our basic principle. Taiwan autonomy means that we need to have credible deterrence and defense capabilities. We cannot just rely on other people's goodwill. So leaking state secrets, of course, is a very serious problem. We need to tackle this problem by, first of all, raising the penalty. In the last few years, military secret leaking, on average, people are sentenced to 1.5 years. In Europe and the US, it's 19 years. So what kind of penalty is that? First of all, penalty has to be heavier. Secondly, internal management has to be enhanced. Now, in the National Defense Ministry, I feel that there's mismanagement. Even some weapons can be leaked to other places. And of course, there's infiltration from China. You have people who are working on family members. They are also gangsters and so on. So we need to have a good SOP, standard operating procedures. For example, what about being taken to a banquet? How are you going to manage it? So we need discipline. But currently, we have very bad discipline, especially civil servants and soldiers. There's very poor discipline. So penalty has to be heavier, especially for civil servants and soldiers. And we also need to have good internal management system. Cyber security is also important. It's not just about hacking. I went to the US earlier this year. I went to an exhibition and I learned that Ukraine was constantly suffering from cyber attacks. But the point is, you need to have good SOP. You need to have basic rules such as renewing your passwords.
Now it's Mr. Lai's turn. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Wang, for your question.
中国在台湾每一次的重大选举都会
Every time during our election, China tries to interfere in our election,
不然
and
我们
this
发现
is a very
大概有
serious
近
issue.
20件国军
Recently, we have
那么跟
identified over
中国这边
20
唱和
cases,
出卖国家
some
的
of
利益，但是我们也要肯定
these
有更多的现役
collaborators
国军
in
或是退役将领
Taiwan.
是婉拒了
But we
中国的
also
威
see
胁，
even
我
more
们也应该给
of
予
our
他们
service
机会。
people
那
resisting
中国的介
such
选从郭台铭
enticement.
的参选，
The intervention from China,
从
from
ECFA
Terry Guo's
的宣布，
participating in the election
还有从
to
农产
ECFA,
品
to
各方面
the
其实都
coercion in boycotting
今
our
天如
agricultural
果
products,
还有
it
人
is
市场
very
真的反
obvious.
对中国进
Mayor
入这场
Ho,
选举，
if you oppose China's
那为什么
electoral
夏立言到中国去
interference,
呢？
then how come the
那为
deputy
什么夏立
chairperson
言
of
到中国
KMT
去
went
之
to
后，
China?
隔天就马
And
上
how come
发
the
布
very next
对
day
台湾
after
的这一
his
个采取的
visit,
这个经济的
China
措施？
announced its
如
trade
果你
measures
真的
against
反对的
Taiwan?
话，那为什么中国所有的介选
And we look at all of
支持的目
this
标通通都是
intervention
你？
from China. How
那这个
come
道理非
it
常清
creates
楚。
support
那我
to
认为
you,
要
Mayor
解决这一
Mayor
个
Ho?
国军的这个，或是台湾社会
So
啊
in
对中
Taiwan,
国吸
if we
收的这个
want
问题，
to
我觉得第一点，
make sure that there's
我
no
们一定要
infiltration
防
from
微杜
China,
渐。
we
也
should
就是
be
保防
more
教育要紧。
cautious. We
那
should
同时呢，我们也
raise
应该
the
要进行
awareness in
国
our
家认同，
nation. We
啊
should
让
also
国人
strengthen our
愿
national
意团结
identity
守护
so
这个国
that
家。
people here are willing
第二个
to
呢，就是说，
unite
当然
and
要从
defend
法
for
律
our
的层
own
面
country.
入手。
The second
因为我
is
看
to
每个
tackle
案
this
子
issue from the
大概都会
legal
透过中间
perspective.
的，
We look at these
就是退役的
cases,
将领，
there's
或
a
者
lot
或
of
者
these
是
middlemen,
现
the
役的这个官
brokers,
兵有没有
whether
参
they're
与？
retired or
那
whether
我
they
们
are
怎么
people
样呢？第
serving
一个
in the
法
military.
来
So
这
how
个
can we
杜
develop a
绝
piece
中
of
间的
legislation
发挥穿针引线的
to
手
make
段？
sure that the
因为被
brokers
吸收的
do
人一
not
开始没有任何
try
意
to
义，
put
这个
together
就是未
these
来的结果。
deals? And this is a very important
第
goal
二
for
阶
us in
段
the
媒体
future.
提问
So
到
the second
10
session
并
of the questions
我们
from
要休
media
息10
outlets
分钟，
are now
请大
finished.
家
We
以热
will
烈的
take a
掌
10-minute
声
break.
为3位候选
Now,
人上榜
please
感到
give our
感
three
谢。
candidates a round of applause
加油加油！
for their speeches in the first and second session. Thank you.
We've just completed the initial round of presidential TV debate with just 8 minutes candidate presentation and a media Q&A.
Up next, let's take a look at some highlights from the opening statements. I want to
我不会
build
跟国民党一
a
样走
peace
回头
and
路，但
democracy
愿
in
永远
Taiwan. I
提
will
前
not
主义
go
的自由。
back. We will not go
我会
back
团
to
结
an
国人，
authoritarian
强化
regime.
国防，强化
I
经
will
济，强化跟民
boost
主
our
阵营
democracy
肩并肩站在一
as
起。
well as our defense
只要对这个
capabilities
面，
and
我的
economic
门永远都是
security.
开的。
And I'm
我愿意
welcome
跟中
to
国
all
继续
kinds
交
of
流合
talks
作，
with
促
those
进
across
两
the
岸
strait.
人民的
And
互
I
信。
am determined to
会不卑
advance the
不亢，
mutual interest
维
across the
持现
Taiwan
状，
Strait.
保
I am
护台湾，
determined to
同时
maintain
稳
the
定两岸，
peaceful status
也促
quo,
进印太的
and
和
I am
平。
also determined to contribute
我要打
to the
造
peace and
创新繁
stability
荣
in
的
the
台湾。
Indo-Pacific
过
region.
去国民党执
I
政，
want to create a prosperous
经济
Taiwan.
停滞，
During
动
the
能不足，
KMT
闷经济的
administration,
时代已
we
经过
had
去了。
economic stagnation,
2018
and that
年
is
到
the
现在，
past. From
外台商回流，
2018 onwards,
外
we
资
have
加码，
seen a
大家看
return
股
of
市也
Taiwanese
创新高。
businesses. We have
未来我
seen
将善用
higher
台湾
stock
的人才，
index
丰
as
沛
well
的
as
创
increased
意，
investment
让
from our
台湾朝向
FDIs.
全
We
面的
hope to bring
创新型的国家。
innovation to Taiwan.
同时，
We
我也
want
会
to make
好好
Taiwan a
运用
stronger
数位
society.
转型、
We'd
性
also
别
like
转
to
型、两股转
utilize
型的力
the
量，
dual
让台
engine
湾形
of
塑
growth,
智
both
慧
in digital
永续
transition
的
and green
新台湾。
transition, to make
第三，
Taiwan
我
more
们要打造
intelligent and sustainable.
有公益、永
I would
续的台
also
湾。
like to bring
过去国民党时
justice
代，
and
把照顾的责任
sustainability
丢
to
给个人，
Taiwan.
In the past, a lot of these burdens are left on households, but over the last 8 years, President Tsai has invested significantly to the society, to a social safety net. Based on this foundation, I would like to work on 0 to 6 childcare as well as the long-term care 3.0 program. Would like to ease the caretaking burdens among all the households. We want to support the parents, we want to support the elderly, and I want to support the younger generation. We have this special grant for young people to study abroad. I also want to focus on education equality, as well as the 3 major policies related to housing justice.
During the pandemic, when people are in grave danger, me, for what I do, I just want to do one thing. I want to stand together with the people. I want to feel their pain. I'm always hold them close to my heart. I feel their misery. At that time, what do I really detest? Well, actually, some businesses are still trying to make profit because we are facing shortage of vaccines and also masks. The bad business people are still trying to make money out of these businesses. We have seen so many scandals related to the DPP. We ask you questions. No one gave us a satisfactory answer. So that's why I stress that if I become president, I will establish a new special investigation division. I will investigate every scandal. Despite political parties, despite your position, if I need to investigate, I will do so. We need to create social justice. So at this moment, every day, you try to smear me. You say that I'm pro-China. Later, I will explain clearly to you. Do not use these dirty tricks. What I really hope is that people of Taiwan can achieve cross-strait peace. So communication and exchange is what we need to do because you didn't do that. So that's why we see grave danger across the Taiwan Strait. Do not put Taiwanese people into danger. Also, you don't want to give up on Taiwan independence. And you said the Republic of China is a legendary. You detest, you despise our country. Actually, our country raised you. Our country is our root. This is not trusting Taiwan. This is hurting Taiwan. Seriously, I think you are so ungrateful. Among the 3 candidates I oppose, one country, two systems, I oppose Taiwan independence. I adhere to the democratic and free system of Taiwan, and the future of Taiwan should be determined by the 23 million people.
And also, just now, you mentioned social housing. Just tell us 2 things. How many have you started and how many have you completed? You've planned how many, but how many have been completed? Just tell us. And you also said that you are going to interact with China in a dignified way. Now, that's what I'm doing too. So how come you are smearing me? And you also said that our party is only my party, but we also have collective decision making, okay? Last year, you lost in the local elections because you are also a party of just one person. And also you talked about KMT, mayors and commissioners and so on. Well, you are only thinking about using people. When you want to use them, you praise them. But now you don't want to use them anymore. And now you say that they are doing pork barrel politics. So that's what you're saying. You should not only think about short-term gains. You should not think about party interests. That's the principle. So from 2000 and now, both the DPP and the KMT have disappointed people. So we need change. We want the KMT and the DPP to learn to be humble. People are the masters of the country. We have to win back the country. And this year, the keyword chosen by the people for this year is shortage. Now, we are facing a lot of shortage. We have shortage of water, power, toilet paper, eggs, and so on. Everything is in shortage. President Tsai Ing-wen.
You're watching Taiwan Plus, and we are bringing you Taiwan's presidential election debate.
Let's go to a short break. Stay with us.
Taiwan is debating its future, and for the first time ever, you can watch in English. On December 30th, and January 1st. TaiwanPlus brings you simultaneous interpretation as the candidates meet face-to-face, followed by in-depth analysis of the debates. Special live coverage of Taiwan's presidential and vice presidential debates in English only on TaiwanPlus.
你经历过人生的话，你发现说，我们大部分都是爱美的。
我自己少遇见一朵花，我可能就不是这个样子。
开始思考什么叫做一个本土性，
大声的唱出来说我是台湾人。
台湾的民主自由，
两岸双方都有责任。
Taiwan votes for a future after President Tsai.
A new leader to manage ties with Washington and Beijing.
And find balance in a volatile region. In an election that could reshape our world.
TaiwanPlus, your guide in uncertain times.
Bringing you analysis from Taiwan and abroad.
Immediate reactions as the results roll in.
And a deep dive into Taiwan's future.
Join us on election night for our live specials. Taiwan Talks, Taiwan Votes, and Taiwan Connects. Only on TaiwanPlus.
I'm Leslie Liao in New York City, and this is TaiwanPlus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.
Formosa is the old name of Taiwan. Coming from Portuguese, it means the beautiful one. This island is really beautiful island. It has very friendly, welcoming people.
An important part of our mission is to serve as cultural ambassadors. In that role, just as we welcome Taiwan tonight,
from Formosa, coming Sunday, December 31st, 9 p.m. on TaiwanPlus.
In the face of adversity, the power of truth.
A roadmap for a just and open world, charted by the freest country in Asia.
Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
TaiwanPlus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.
Welcome back to Taiwan Plus and the Taiwan presidential TV debates. In the next hour, we will see each of the presidential candidates, Ching-te of the ruling DPP, Hou Youyi of the main opposition KMT, and Wen-je of the TPP engage in cross-examination of their opponents.
Each candidate gets to ask their rivals 3 questions, and they each have 2 minutes to respond. This is the highlight of the event, and we're expecting some heated interaction. Let's get back to the debate.
TV, TVBS, CTS, CTV, and PTS. And now we are moving on to our third session, where the candidates will proceed with their cross-examinations. In this session, each candidate will have 3 rounds of questions proposed to their opponents, and you have 1 minute each round. And the other 2 candidates will have to respond, and you will have 2 minutes to respond to the question. According to our lot drawing, in the third session, we will have Mr. Lai to propose his question. You have 1 minute, please.
Mayor Hou, you mentioned about 92 consensus and Chairperson Code, 2 sides, 1 family. This is the one China principle. So here my first question, ROC and PRC, are they subordinate to each other? And also my second question, is it DPP or is it the Communist Party that wants to get rid of the Republic of China? We have already run the country twice already, and Republic of China still exists. If that's the case, how come you are willing to accept one China principle or two sides, one family? Both of you talked about a cabinet system and a coalition government. The blue-white alliance, we have seen all of the different scandals. So here, are you trying to reform the presidential election? Are you trying to make the head of the state into a nominal one? And is that good for Taiwan?
Mr. Ho, please respond. You have 2 minutes, please.
So we are talking about the 1992 consensus again. Mr. Lai, you really don't understand. When I talk about the 1992 consensus, it's not the way how you describe it. You stigmatize the 1992 consensus to say that it's equivalent to one country, two systems. You're trying to brainwash the people. The 1992 consensus that we adopt is following the ROC constitution. All the consensus falls under the constitution. It's different from what you said. Also, your policies will undermine Taiwan's security. What you said, you support Taiwan independence, but you do not publicly tell the people again during the election. I oppose Taiwan independence, but you support Taiwan independence. At this stage, now we are facing great tensions across the Taiwan Strait, but you're still adhering to Taiwan independence. So how can cross-strait relations develop? You do not follow the ROC constitution, so how can Taiwan survive? Today, when talking about the cabinet system, if I become president, I will convene an interpolitical party meeting. And when it comes to the position of our country, how to promote cross-strait relations, we definitely want to forge consensus. The cabinet system is an opportunity for us to amend the constitution. Definitely, we need to reach consensus. It's not me making the decision. So under the president's power, the president is not required to report to the parliament. But I think for me and for Chairman Ko, we are willing to be supervised by our people. Different from President Tsai, who hasn't hosted press conferences for hundreds of days. So the cabinet system is about achieving consensus to amend the constitution so that we can march forward together. Before establishing the coalition government, definitely, I think this is what we have to do.
Mr. Ko, please respond. You have 2 minutes, please.
Right. Two sides, one family. I talked about it in 2015. So again, it's to show our goodwill towards China. If we have goodwill, we can interact with each other. Mr. Lai has constantly trying to link this to one China, and this is smearing. And he also talked about who's trying to get rid of the ROC, the CPC or the DPP. I don't know whether your advisors told you. You said that the ROC is the guardian angel of Taiwan. Is this going to take Taiwan to war or towards peace? I think that you will have to clarify what you mean. So is the ROC going to bring disaster to Taiwan? And why are you running for the office of the ROC president? So I think smearing me as a CCP supporter is not necessary. Now, the parliamentary system, of course, constitutional amendments will not be achieved overnight. So we have to, first of all, change to this kind of system. The appointment of the premier has to receive legislative support, and also the president has to give a State of the Union speech and also answer legislative questions. So that's my proposal. I see that the current political system makes it very difficult for small parties to survive. That's why we should start to allocate legislator a large seats once small parties get 3% of the votes. We need to have a system that can help small parties to prosper. Otherwise, we are always troubled by this kind of division. This is the first time where we can have a new opportunity.
Now, Mr. Ho, you have your first question. You have 1 minute, please.
I understand that you're all home. I understand how you feel. You have a piece of land, wanting you to have a good life. I think that's the parents want for their children. But whether it's illegal or not, I think according to the law, we have a decision, but you don't want to acknowledge that. It was illegal, but you said it's legal. So you even want the national security personnel to clean the house for you. So let me ask you, regarding this illegal construction, you've been crying over that. However, when moving the rail in Tainan eastwards, have you ever cried for those people who suffered? You said this is not illegal, but you're not declaring the property. But for me, I have declared a property. You're not paying the housing taxes, but I have paid the housing taxes. Can you say that that piece of land is not illegal? Do not shift the focus. You're trying to smear people. You're trying to take advantage of the innocent people. We have to think about what is right.
Mr. Ko, please respond. You have 2 minutes.
Right. So Mr. Ho didn't ask me any question, but I'm just going to say something. Well, of course, we may always make mistakes, but we need to apologize over our mistakes. So regarding Mr. Lai's housing, his problem is that he did not admit that it was a problem. He insisted that the house was legal, but it's not. And he also said that you paid housing taxes. But if the structure itself is not legal, then how can you pay taxes over it? And you also talked about how it was just a shack, and then you renovated it, and you also cried over the story. But then there's also evidence showing that the structure is new, dating back to 2003. So you lied, and you mentioned that you would give up the house to charity. But then you don't have any documents for the house, so how can you give it up for charity? And also, you did not declare this house as your property. And the properties also have to be put into trust, but that did not happen. So often, if you tell a lie, then you have to tell 10 lies to cover your previous lies. And then you are just drowned by all these lies. Well, currently, I can no longer see what the truth is. Just say that you made a mistake. And that's the problem of the DPP. And that's why I'm angry with the DPP. You are always arrogant. No one is a saint. Everybody makes mistakes. But if you make a mistake, just admit it and try to make amends. So if you tell one lie, and then you have to tell 10 more lies. I'm not just targeting this house, but your personality, your integrity.
Mr. Lai, please respond. You have 2 minutes, please.
So indeed, we all make mistakes. Mayor Ho and Chairperson Go, you have made a mistake just now. Mayor Ho, I don't think you are in the position in criticizing my house. You are the mayor of New Taipei City. And we look at all the houses in the mining communities. The houses, the residents did not receive the proper support, and that is the root of the problem. For Chairperson Go, you know it better than anybody, that the house we have in Wanli and your land is completely different. In your land, there is the law, but you violated it. And then for my house, it predated the Planning Act. And this is the situation there. So it is impossible that you try to use what is mentioned in the Regional Planning Act to apply it to my family house. It is really inappropriate. I've already decided to turn my family house into the Miners Museum, and this is how I'm going to resolve the issue. I would also like to clarify one thing. Mayor Ho, you said that I'm not willing to go to the legislative yuan to deliver my State of Union. That is a fake news. That is a false information. According to the Constitution and also according to the legislation, the President is obligated based on the request of the legislative yuan to deliver the State of Union to receive the oversight from the Congress. But it is not one-to-one oversight. I am a person of great courage. I'm willing to take on all kinds of challenges. And of course, I have my own emotions. When things touch me, I will have tears, but it's not because of my family house. It is because I'm so grateful to all the support that people have given me.
Now, Mr. Ko, you have 1 minute to ask your question, please.
Right, Mr. Lai, I've been asking this question for 2 months. You said you are a pragmatic Taiwan independence worker, and the U.S. government already said that it does not support Taiwan independence. So how can you push for Taiwan independence in a pragmatic way? And also, U.S. scholars have recommended that you cancel the Taiwan independence platform in your party. So how are you going to respond? And the other day, you also said that ECFA is not the path for Taiwan. So how come you didn't abolish it as the premier? Now you are the vice president. Are you going to say that we are going to stop implementing the ECFA now? You only stop saying Taiwan independence during election, but you are not courageous enough to stand up for your belief. And Mr. Hou You-yi, do you think that the CCP, how come the CCP supports you? And that's why they even faked public opinions for you.
Mr. Lai, please respond. You have 2 minutes, please.
The U.S. government or the U.S. scholar opposing Taiwanese independence, it's actually a whole argument, a whole article. It opposes China using force to change the status quo. U.S. also does not support Taiwan unilaterally declaring independence, and that purpose is to maintain cross-strait peace. Yet, you are trying to just take part of the words to serve your own purpose. As mentioned, as the leader of the nation and with courage, without succumbing to the threat from China, I would like to secure cross-strait peace and also security in the Indo-Pacific region. And that is my commitment and my mission. President Tsai, since she took office, she has talked about the 4 commitments. We will not go back to the old pathway of confrontation. And this is in continuation of all the presidents from the past. So Taiwan, there is not a matter of removing ECFA or not. But we see how China is using ECFA to engage in economic coercion against Taiwan. And this is what is so obvious. And what is Taiwanese independence? Chairperson Ko and also Mayor Ho. Maybe you can tell us. The Taiwanese independence, the argument is that the sovereignty of Taiwan belongs to the 23 million people of Taiwan. It does not belong to the PRC. And the ROC and the PRC are not subordinate to each other. And that is the definition. I'm a practitioner. I'm very pragmatic. I want to safeguard our nation. I want to take care of people's well-being. And this is why I am exerting this very pragmatic leadership.
Mr. Hou You-yi, please respond. You have 2 minutes, please.
Chairman Lai, you just said that your illegal property, you didn't give us a clear explanation. Chairman Ko said that you're still telling lies. You said you were crying. You're crying for the people. If you really hold the people close to your heart, the mind has been there for so many years. When you were a legislator, when you were premier, you were not making any changes, and then you're blaming the local government. So the local government has reported a case twice to the central government. The Ministry of the Interior did nothing. They just put the case aside. I think your tears, are they real? Are they just crocodile tears? I have no idea. So do not keep telling lies. You said you want to donate that to a charitable trust. So far, there's no determination. How can you do that? Is that even possible? Have you even done that? You haven't, right? You're only talking. But for me, the Kaishuanyuan is a piece of legal property. Also, I have clear declaration of my property. Immediately, when we talk about taking care of the young people, so then I support the building of social residence. Now, I have done almost half of my promise. So starting next year, we will start. We are all ready. And in the future, everything will be done. But now, we can start with the 50 units. So now it's happening. Unlike you. Also, Chairman Ko said that China is creating fake polls. That's nothing to do with KMT.
Now, we are proceeding to the second round of cross-examination. The order of response will be switched. And now we will invite Mr. Ho to ask your question. You have 1 minute, please.
80% of people in Taiwan supports the abolition of, they support keeping death penalty. So I'm the only candidate to clearly say that I oppose the abolition of death penalty because I protect social order. I support justice. I want to protect the victims. This is my unwavering status. We have to think about the public opinion. So I want to ask the DPP. You have been in power for 8 years. You have executed 2 death cases. 38 people are still on the death row. Is there any way? You're actually stopping the execution of death penalty? So in the future, what are you going to do for these people on the death row? What can we do to protect the victims? Police officers were killed by perpetrators, but the perpetrator is still alive. The police is dead. So we need to restore the justice. Do you support or oppose death penalty?
Mr. Lai, please respond. You have 2 minutes, please.
Mayor Ho, in Taiwan, there's no such issue as abolishing the death penalty. This is not just the issue that we face. Globally, we're also talking about it. It requires a very high level of societal consensus to push forward this issue. Starting from the Ma administration, we have adopted the 2 major international conventions. We need to follow very strict measure, and we need to handle this issue based on the human rights. It requires very rigorous procedure and planning. I understand a lot of the uncertainties and your concerns, but we need to tackle the issue from the root. And the best policy is actually tackling it from the social policy area. We understand that there are still areas for improvement. In the future, we should work together across different governments to face this issue, and so that we can engage in more productive discussion. Secondly, you asked us in 2014 when I went to Shanghai, did I receive any treatment? I can promise you, no. At that year, I went to Shanghai because we wanted to bring the art exhibition by Taiwanese painter Chen Chengbo. We held an art exhibition across 3 countries, 5 cities, Tokyo, Shanghai, Taipei, Tainan. And as the mayor of Tainan at that time in 2014, I went to Shanghai to take part in that event. It was on the taxpayer money in Tainan City, and we did not receive any treatment locally. And you talked about my family house. I think the public can have misunderstanding, but you cannot. You are the mayor of New Taipei City. You are the governor of these regional planning acts, but you never tackled it. And you should understand this issue further.
Mr. Wen-je, please respond. You have 2 minutes, please.
Death penalty in Taiwan, of course, it's a very contentious issue. Now, in Taiwan, there are very few policies that receive so much support. 80% of the people support the death penalty. Why? It has to do with Chinese culture. Well, in Chinese history, throughout history, there's already a tradition where people who kill should pay. So that's the tradition. I understand that in a Chinese cultural society, people have this kind of consensus. And in the European Union, a lot of parliamentarians were trying to lobby me, saying that we should abolish the death penalty. And they also said that we have signed the 2 human rights conventions. Well, this issue, of course, I want to talk about political culture. What does that mean? Americans love their guns. Why? Because Mayflower arrived in New England, and in the first winter, they lost 1/3 of the people. And that's why in the US, they focus on individualism and also freedom. Americans don't like to wear masks. They love their guns. But you say to them that you should get rid of your guns? So, of course, whether in China or Taiwan, I believe that in ethnic Chinese societies, people have support for the death penalty. But of course, there's pressure from the international community. What can we do? There's a compromise. So if we don't execute people, then there should be life imprisonment. So you cannot allow people to be released on parole after just 15 years, because that's the source of people's anger.
Now, Mr. Ko, you have 1 minute to ask your question, please.
Right. Okay, my question is for Mr. Lai. So the new Tide faction leader, Wu Nairen, he was the head of Thai Sugar, and he was also charged with corruption. And he had since been released from prison, and you didn't carry out your promise to basically to leave politics. And now there are also other corruption cases among DPP politicians. So it shows that you have double standards. There are so many different names. So are you just going to acting dumb? And Mr. Ho, so in your second term as the new Taipei mayor, very soon after you were elected, you just came out to campaign for president. This is irresponsible. And also, people ask you to present evidence that you asked for leave. Where's the proof?
Mr. Ho, please respond. You have 2 minutes.
In New Taipei City, I've been working there for 13 years. I started as deputy mayor and then mayor. So everything there, I think what I have done is widely understood by the public. We have all become mayor of local government. If you look at the Wen-je redevelopment zone, there are 400 factories. We have solved the urban development plan that cannot be resolved in 50 years. Also, Wen-je is 2.6 times larger than Xinyi district in Taipei. So this is very big. Chairman Ko, you work in Taipei for 8 years. It's not about how long you've been working there. It's about whether you're able to address people's complaints. As for Chairman Lai, the railway in Tainan moving eastwards has caused so many complaints. So 6,000 households are living in misery. I solved the garbage mountain in New Taipei. I didn't receive a lot of complaints. I think I have adopted the same approach when it comes to social residents, especially when it comes to the social nurseries. And I think the local government has done a lot. We will increase the number continuously. Also, we can see now we love the public nurseries. And also I have built 26 kilometers of rail and also a lot of stations. Compared to Taipei, actually, they think New Taipei is doing much better. We have over 1,000 elderly clubs. And also we have social residents. But for Mr. Lai, they don't have public kindergartens, they don't have health centers for the elderly, and for the MRT, he has done nothing. Today, why I run for president, it's because DPP has been doing such a bad job in governance. What I need to do is to change the situation.
Mr. Lai, please respond. You have 2 minutes, please.
Mayor Ho, again, 2 minutes. You are spreading even more fake news. In Tainan City, we have our public sports center. We also have public childcare. When I served as mayor, we also have social housing. You talked about the Wen-je rezoning district. There were also protests. It was widely reported in the media, but you neglected all those reports. And then Chairperson Ko. When we talk about integrity or honesty, the Blue-White Alliance, you talked about the 6 agreements and you raised all of them. So out of the 3 of us, you are the least among all of us to talk about integrity. Every party, there's going to be people who are very capable and also people who make mistakes. So here, we should face everything with courage. If we need to investigate them, we should take the necessary action. And for Mr. Wu Nairen and also Mr. Hong Qicang, I read the judge's decision and understand that there's problems. I read the verdicts, and again, it was reviewed. We know about the process. So if there is no issue, then it won't be sent to the Supreme Court. And then we respect the final verdicts. As for Li Quanjiao from Tainan City, you also supported him in his rally. You held his hands. Mr. Li Quanjiao, he is involved in corruption as a city councilor and as a head of the city council. And I am very aware of the entire corruption process. And that is why I decided to make reforms locally. As for Ms. Cho Lili, we have already suspended her position, and now it's under investigation. So I believe that DPP will act according to law.
Now, Mr. Lai, please ask your question. You have 1 minute, please.
10 years ago, because of ECFA, the Sunflower Movement blocked ECFA so that we have the new momentum to invigorate our economy. Over the years, we see continuous growth in our economy. We have higher stock index, and now we are the 21st largest economy globally. Mayor Ho and also Chairperson Ke, you are talking about the past mistake, and you want to restart the trade. You want to restart the trade and services agreement. Does it mean that you want to make Taiwan vulnerable to go back to that dependence on China's economy? And then about energy transition. When you served as mayor, you said that there's no so-called nuclear safety. We're not able to handle nuclear waste, and then we should not restart the nuclear power plant. But now you are taking a different position. And also in your energy policy, you are talking about nuclear generation accounting for at least 10%. Where are you going to get that? And how are you going to handle the nuclear waste?
Mr. Ko, please respond. You have 2 minutes, please.
So just now, Mr. Lai told us a lie again. So, in fact, the Sunflower Movement was against the so-called black box politics, not service in trade agreements. So, what the students were asking for was for supervision of the legislative process. The DPP has been in power for 8 years. Now, the DPP can pass any laws because you have a majority in the legislature. In the Sunflower Movement, the students call for supervision, but where's the law? And also service in trade agreement. What about it? Now, we looked at the the Mainland Affairs Council, and we also saw on the council website that there should be a law for supervision before the service in trade agreement can be inked. And regarding nuclear energy, we have to face up to the problem. Now, the semiconductor industry contribute over 20% of the national GDP. I was a surgeon for decades, and of course, it's difficult to come up with an evacuation plan if there's a nuclear disaster because Taiwan is just too small. But in the last 20 years, we saw nuclear disasters, including the Fukushima safety incident. But I have to say that nuclear safety has now improved, and nuclear waste in the future, we probably can deal with the problem, but obviously we have to be honest with the people. Now, of course, you may be hit by a car and die from a car accident, but that's not a reason not to go onto the road.
Mr. Ho, please respond. You have 2 minutes, please.
I just want to respond. Chairman Lai's remarks. You said that I am pro-China. When talking about abolition of death penalty, both of them are still ambiguous. Just be clear. You need to show the attitude. If you want to be a national leader, make it clear. Do not be ambiguous. I support the keeping of death penalty. Now, talking about cross-strait trade, DPP, when it comes to trade or anything, they all blame it to politics. They say, oh, cross-strait trade caused a lot of inconveniences, so the country is in a dire situation. My cross-strait trade policy is very different from that of DPP. When we want to have global deployment, I not only focus on ECFA for mainland China and Taiwan. We need to continue ECFA, but we need to have an oversight bill for cross-trade negotiations or agreements. 8 years have passed. You've done nothing. And over the past 8 years, DPP does not abolish ECFA. You said it's sugar-coated poison, but you think you still want to keep it. So this is our difference. Do not blame other people. Think about how you want to walk your path. Talk about nuclear power. You talk about supporting the holy grail of nuclear-free homeland. You said 2025, and the Ministry of Economic Affairs also said that they cannot achieve nuclear-free homeland. Talking about nuclear, I have never objected the use of nuclear power. If we can do a good job in nuclear safety, if we can have proper handling of the fuel, then we can keep nuclear. We want to reduce the use of coal, but I said that nuclear is very important. We need to use nuclear to reduce coal. You said you want to have clean coal, but now a lot of people are suffering from lung adenocarcinoma.
Now we're proceeding to the third round of cross-examination. The order of speaking will be switched. So first of all, Mr. Ko, you have 1 minute to ask your question, please.
I want to ask Mr. Lai, as an alumnus of the National Taiwan University, regarding the boycott of a president and also Lin Zhijian's plagiarism, what are your comments? Do you also agree with what the DPP did? You didn't make any comments in that period. And as a doctor, Medigen vaccine, do you support it? I don't blame other people, but I want to ask you, because you are a doctor. For Medigen, you boycotted BNT, and also Medigen procurement agreement has been sealed for 30 years. Do you agree with that? And also, there's a lot of secrecy. What about the principle of transparency? And also, I want to ask Mr. Ho. Now, in fact, the new Taipei City government already has data and evidence regarding Mr. Lai's illegal dwelling. How come you didn't disclose it?
Mr. Lai, please respond. You have 2 minutes.
First of all, I do not accept your claim. Your description of my family house is really impolite. You are the chairperson of a party, you are a presidential candidate, and you should not lead in such sparing tactic. And as an NTU alumni, of course, I care about the academic independence in the university. You only bring our attention to Professor Guan's case, but actually, in the very beginning, it was the comments from the alumni group. And I was also the premier when he was running for the principal. As for plagiarism, I take a very serious attitude. When I served as the chairperson of the party, I have already made it very clear. If you think there are any situation with the Medigen vaccine case, you should be able to propose any solutions as a medical doctor. But according to my understanding, the prosecutors have already investigated the 63 cases and there's no unlawful actions. And if you think that there's any unlawful deeds, please try to reveal it, try to bring it to the judicial system. As for the contract, I agree that it should be made public and made transparent. The prices by the Medigen vaccine is already disclosed and the control yuan has already examined it. So now I think it is proper to make public the contract, and this will prevent any further rumors from spreading. As for Mayor Ho, in 2014, when I went to Shanghai, I said that through exchange, we hope to facilitate mutual understanding, reconciliation. We hope to have exchange and dialogues instead of confrontation. But I didn't make any political statements. So please stop spreading rumors.
And now, Mr. Ho, please respond. You have 2 minutes.
When it comes to blocking President Guan of NTU, actually, the government has interfered the academic freedom of university. They should not do that. So people are still having grudges over it. In addition to interfering with academic freedom, you also established a transitional justice committee. When I ran for the first time, the transitional justice committee smeared me and they targeted me. So that said, why not do it now? Also, the NCC National Communications Commission, they listen to you. If they don't listen, then the head is removed. The DPP government has full control over press freedom, and this is what DPP has been doing. In terms of KMT's property assets, you have investigation. I do not object to that. What should be done, should be done. If I become president, in terms of the property asset, I will return that to zero so we can address the issue. If we do it wrong, if you have any reasonable doubt, I will make it clear. If we make mistakes, then we will face what we have done wrong. If you make mistakes when blocking the NTU president, you should admit it. But you're only telling lies. So I really can't stand it. So we know that the Medigen scandal. So there are 63 cases. If you ask the people, are we done with the Medigen case? You're just protecting them? I don't want to say it here, but people still have a lot of questions regarding Medigen. You sealed the documents for 30 years. Just reveal them now. You just need to reveal the information now. Now you're the vice president. You have the right to declassify the documents. Have you done that? If I become president, I will declassify the documents. Then we do what we have to do.
Mr. Lai, please ask your question. You have 1 minute, please.
So once again, I want to reemphasize, out of the 3 candidates, I'm the only one that is not a land speculator, that is not trying to reap profit from land or house. And you, Mayor Ho, you have applied 99 addresses from your Kaishuan condominium. And then your family, you're exploiting the students, you're charging high rent, you are purchasing land in the New Taipei City. And recently you are also trying to leverage the bank to game on the system. And how can you talk about residential justice? And how are you capable to lead the country, to help our younger generation? As for Chairperson Ko, your entire family have purchased a lot of farmlands. Some of the lands are in the conservation sites, and you make them into parking lots. You damage the agriculture of these land. If that is the case, why don't you buy the proper lands instead of farmland? And you say that you have no idea about this problem.
Mr. Ho, please respond. You have 2 minutes.
During the election campaign, well, whatever you say, even it's wrong, you will say it's right. Even for your family members are being slandered. I really don't want to see this happen. Let's make it clear today. The piece of land in Xinjiang in New Taipei, we have 2 pieces of land connected together, and a house is on top of the land. So it's an old house with 60 years of history. I've never lived inside. I've never used the land. And now you're talking about it to see how are you going to address that. But we don't know how to do, well, the house is there for a long time. We need to make things right. Everything is reasonable, especially I want to tell you, please do not smear me. Do not discredit me. It's not that I'm increasing the benefit for that piece of land. Actually, this is a huge lie. This land number 253, 254 do not fall under the incentive program of New Taipei City. So you said I'm jacking up land prices, I'm making profit. Don't do it in the election campaign. It's not my property. It's my wife's house property. And then you say, I spend whole my life protecting people. I don't make a lot of money, but I sacrifice my life for people. But you say, well, if I cannot take good care of my family or my grandchildren, I can show my property. You can see the numbers. I use this attitude to take care of my wife. My wife's property comes from inheritance. It comes from inheritance. So I face the problem with honesty. So everything is legal. I pay the taxes. I follow the rules. You said 99 addresses. Well, this is all legal. You can look it up.
Mr. Ko, please respond. You have 2 minutes, please.
Right. So in this event, what we should discuss is where we will take Taiwan to. But we have been discussing real estate. I don't really want to be talking about this. I like to joke about a lot of things, but we have to take state affairs seriously. Lai Ching-te, of course, maybe you don't speculate yourself, but you probably have cronies who can do this for you. What about the new Tide faction? What are they doing? Don't you know? Well, moral justice is not something that you can only do when you are president. I'm a very straightforward person. If something is wrong, I'll just say it's wrong. I call a spade a spade. And because of this, I believe that people around me are also very honest and straightforward. I know that a lot of DPP supporters laugh at me, saying that I will never be elected. But this is also why our country has become what it is. People are doing everything in order to win elections. And also, you always tell lies. You always slander people. My dad did buy a plot for me. It's a piece of farmland. And you can't build a hospital on it. My father wanted me to build a hospital in Hsinchu, my hometown. And sorry, for so many years, well, you can't predict life. I may not be able to live up to his expectations. Buying land itself is not wrong. Sorry.
Mr. Ho, please ask your question. You have 1 minute, please.
Mr. Lai, you once said nurse 8 has a salary of 30,000 NT dollars. So this low salary, you just want them to do charitable work. Over 50% of the people, we do see they have a slight increase of salaries. Mr. Lai, do you know that young people in Taiwan, for those under 25 years old, their monthly salary is only $30,000. Half of the young people under 25 years old do not even have 30,000 NT dollars for the salary. You said housing prices are dropping, but actually during the 8 years of DPP government, So we do see an increase of 85%. And during President Chen, 22%, President Ma, 33%. But during DPP government, we do see rising and skyrocketing housing prices. You talk about the subsidies, and then you just ask the young people to talk to the landlord. Do you have sympathy?
Mr. Ko, please respond. You have 2 minutes.
Right. Mr. Ho didn't ask me a question, so I'm just doing some sort of a solo here. Well, in Taiwan, we need new politics. We need a new political culture. Again, people make mistakes, but if you make mistakes, you have to apologize and try to make amends. Taiwan has a lot of problems. Labor insurance is going bankrupt. A lot of universities are closing, and also we have labor shortage. We have all sorts of shortage problems. Even shortage of eggs. That's really ridiculous. You also have a shortage of new toilet paper. But complaint itself is not going to solve the problem. So I want to take this opportunity to tell the people of Taiwan that obviously it's not that you have a good president and suddenly everything would be fine. We just want a normal person who is hardworking, who is not bound by ideology, and most importantly, someone who is not corrupt. Now, not being corrupt is not a virtue, it's a must. Now, some people say that it's okay to be corrupt, just do not get a lot of money out of it, and that's okay. But that's the problem with Taiwan. We want this country to be normal. We have to face up to the everyday issues and try to tackle these problems one by one. Of course, we cannot change this country overnight. You should not have this kind of fantasy. But we must do something. When President Li Denghui was still with us, he told me that problems that have been around for 40 years, no one can solve it. He was right and wrong. I understand that a long-standing issue is very difficult to tackle, but I also think that if you don't do anything now, then 40 years later, the problem will still be there. So we have to work hard.
Mr. Lai, please respond. You have 2 minutes, please.
Thank you. So Chairperson Ko, he shed his tears. And no, it's not because of his family land. It is because he thought about his expectations from his parents, from his father. And I hope Chairperson Ko can also show sympathy for me, that I shed tears not because of my family house. And then the second point about the house, the property issue. Here in this debate, we should talk about national policies. Yet in today's debate, you are the first person who brought up this issue. It is started from Mayor Ho, and then Chairperson Ko brought up the property discussion. I also agree that in this important occasion, we should talk about our national blueprint. And in my initial remarks, I have already outlined my national blueprint and also the direction that I'm going to lead our country towards. Thirdly, Chairperson Ko, you also made the statement. You talked about the local fractions, the KMTs, the affiliated gangs. But when you served as the mayor of Taipei City, you also sought support from the new Thai fraction. Yet they realized your intention, and since you broke apart, you started to smear them, and you wanted to spread fake information in attacking Mayor Chen-je of Kaohsiung City. This is not what we understand by the new political culture. And you talked about the caretaker salary, 30-something thousand. That salary has already increased to 40-something thousand. It is not what you have described.
The third session has now completed. Now we're moving on to the final session where our candidates will deliver their conclusion. Each candidate will have 5 minutes. According to our lot drawing previously, during the conclusion, they will take turns that is opposite to their constructive speech. So Mr. Kerr will be the first one, please.
Right. So I think for me, it's a momentous day. This is not just a debate before the election. It's a key moment that will decide the future of Taiwan. As a candidate here, it shows that the Taiwanese people want new politics. They want social justice. You see, Taiwan doesn't have a lot of resources, but we have achieved what we've achieved today. But now people are disappointed with politics now. I've been a doctor for 30 years. I was not involved in politics, but I was always following public affairs. Now, because of my background, initially I was quite close with the DPP, and at the time the DPP represented progressive values. But now it's different. Now, I'm still me, and in the last 10 years, on the first day when I became a politician, it has always been the Taiwanese people who are with me. You believe in progressive values, and that's why in the last 10 years, I can insist on my own values, integrity, and so on. All these values are being advocated by the DPP, but what are they doing now? People are longing for change. People want Taiwan to become part of the international community. And there are a lot of attacks on me, and it shows that the DPP is now farther and farther away from what they were. I was the Taipei mayor for 8 years. I wouldn't say that I was the best, but I was definitely the hardest working. And I also led different parties. I repaid debts. And the issue is not just money. The point is to think about what kind of Taiwan we want to leave for the future generations. It's about sustainability. Politics is part of our everyday life. I was a doctor for 30 years. I was a Taipei mayor for 8 years, and every day was easy for me. I was tackling the problems in front of me. And also next day, I would do the same. And what I represent is pragmatism, science, and rationality. So these are the values that I believe in, and I want to show you all these values. Electing Wen-je is not about electing a specific candidate. It's about choosing progressive values and justice. I was the Taipei mayor for 8 years. And I can use my experience as a Taipei mayor. I can also use my experience as a doctor for 30 years. I can tell you that Wen-je will continue to reform the system. This country needs change. It cannot continue as business as usual. We have demographic crisis. We have higher education issues. We have bad medical quality and also failing national health insurance system. We also have energy crisis. Industrial resilience is simply not there. 2050 net zero, 2050 is coming, and also our national debt is increasing. Society is divided. We need a harmonious society. Of course, we also need to safeguard Taiwan's democratic value, because this is what is making Taiwan known, is what making Taiwan seen internationally. Democracy is the reason why the ROC can continue to survive. Please believe that Wen-je will use all kinds of talent rather than serving a specific party or specific conglomerate or interest group. And I believe that good governance is what we want. And what we have to believe is that we have to believe in ourselves. We have to believe in that we can win our country back. On January 13th, for all of you who believe in professionalism, science, and pragmatism, who believe that people should be first, all of you, if you believe in these values, please vote for us. Please vote for number 1, the Ke-Wu tickets. Come out to vote. Vote for justice. Vote for the values and the reforms that we've been insisting on. Vote for us to protect our country. I will continue to insist on these values, and the country will be yours. You are the reason why I'm a politician. You are the reason why I continue to work. Thank you.
接下来请侯友宜先生
Now,
做结论。
Mr. Ho, please make your conclusion. You have 5 minutes, please.
Chairman Ko, he just shed his tears. Looking his tears, it's because DPP is saying that he's pro-China. I just want to tell Chairman Ko, do not cry. Let's face all of the attacks. Let's be brave and move ahead so that DPP will not hurt us. Over the last 8 years, we are suffering. We have so many spam and fraud cases and serious corruption. Salaries do not increase and our lives are really difficult. We are facing cross-strait tensions. So in the next 2 days, that will mark the new beginning of the ROC. So we know that we are facing hardships, but we have the opportunity to use our votes to change everything. We can use our strong, fast steps to move ahead. In the future, I will stand by your side to walk forward together. I know you deserve a better future, and I know our future generation hopes that we can do a better job, and they will live a happier life. Corruption, inability, bribery, all these are the harms from the DPP government to Taiwan. Chairman Ko, I think I really resonate with what he said. When I go to the street market, I care about the people's livelihood. Do you know what they said to me? They said, if new tide does not dissemble, then Taiwan will not have a good life. You are actually enjoying the benefit. You don't want to give up the holy grail of Taiwan independence. You keep telling lies. And for the new tide, you want to protect them to make huge profit. But all these have seriously undermined Taiwan. There's no way for us to support DPP. You will not win the trust of the people. Mr. Jiang Wei-shui, he's the pioneer for Taiwan's democracy. He's a pioneer of Taiwan's democracy. He said that comrades must unite. Unite, then we will have the strength. I think that's the goal for my campaign. We don't want to have division or conflict. We don't want to differentiate between age or race. We should join hands and march forward together. We need to have teamwork. If you are able, you need to have perseverance. We will lead you to move ahead together. Chairman Ko, he is the only person that triumphs the whole party. Chairman Lai cannot overcome the corruption of the New Tide faction. I will promise to establish the clean and capable team and a government for coalition. I will not be like the DPP, which is autocratic. I will have the ability to organize a coalition government so that we can fulfill people's wish of seeing political turnover. Here, I will pledge to all of the citizens of Taiwan. I would like to organize a new Taiwan political reorganization movement. So my goal is peace, dignity, clean, integrity, peace, dignity, peace and justice, clean and integrity, and industriousness. This cannot be done by one political party. We need to have the support from everyone. We need to do it together. I believe that Chairman Ko will also play a very important role because we understand that we are not running for our personal interest. We want to unite all of the people so that we can progress forward together. On December 13th, that will be the voting day that also marks the death or the passing of former President Jiang Jingguo. I have always looked up him as my idol. He said, if we don't do it today, we will regret tomorrow. My dear fellow countrymen, I started my career as a grassroots police officer, and now I have the stage to become a presidential candidate. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I am extremely touched. So in the final stage of my life, I will use my heart, my strength to keep fighting. That's the reason why Well, over dozens of shootings, I didn't lose my life. I can still be alive thanks to God, because I want to protect the ROC national flag. I want to protect freedom and democracy of Taiwan. I will be able to achieve these goals.
Last but not least, Mr. Lai, please make your conclusion. You have 5 minutes, please.
So in conclusion, I would like to share this with my opponents. As a leader of a country, for any spearing, any slandering, it has to have evidence. It cannot just be spreading rumors. Mayor Ho, if you're really going to combat black votes, then you should start from your own party, and that will really contribute to our society. My dear fellow citizens, I am very grateful to all of you to support DPP over the last 37 years. We rose from grassroots movements, and we now, from oversighting from the opposition party, we now run the country. 2020, 2016, we have seen how President Tsai led the Republic of China in transition, in reforming the country. We have also stand firm on all our values, and we have received global recognition. Taiwan is a country that is brave and that is worthy of everyone's respect. 2018, 2022, the failures also prompt us to reflect upon ourselves. And these are forces that push us forward. I'm grateful to all of you. People's will is what nourishes us, whether we are talking about politician or party or a government. I'm not God. I'm from a very humble family. I was a trained medical doctor by training. From the pain, from the needs of the patients, I was able to utilize my expertise to take care of them. And then when I served in the government, I also held the same attitude in reflecting upon myself. And when I shoulder greater responsibility, I can continue to understand the needs of the society and country so that we can advance our society. Over the last 3 decades, from legislator to central government, I am prepared, I am ready. In the future, together with V. Kim, we will build a very effective, efficient government to take care of the well-being of all the citizens in our country. I'm also very grateful to the Taiwanese people to support the Thai government. I'm also grateful to all of the government servants. I'm grateful to the entire society. Because of our joint effort, we have led the country on the right path. Over the last years, we have pragmatic diplomacy. We have enhanced our defense capabilities. We have garnered more support from the international community. We have also started our digital transition, green transition. We have made our industries critical globally. We have also embarked on pension reform. We are the first nation to legalize same-sex marriage in Asia. We are also very determined to commit to the progressive agenda. We want to implement housing justice. We want to share the fruits of economic development with a broader society. We are also committed to the path of the Republic of China and Taiwan. We want to unite the society across generation, across different ethnicities, so that in the face of PRC's threat, we are able to weather all the challenges. And this is the joint effort, the era of Taiwan that we have created. We are more confident culturally. We have a stronger national identity. We are able to become less vulnerable. We are less dependent on China's threat and on China's economy. And we are able to have a government that is able to shoulder greater responsibility and support every citizen that needs our help. Now we have a very clear future. We are able to carry out these new values. This is a hard-earned progress. We don't want to go backwards. So together with V. Kim, on this path, we will continue to forge ahead steadily and firmly. We will build a stronger government. We will work across political parties. We will listen to the voices of the people to unite our country so that Republic of China, Taiwan will enjoy a better future. This is not a choice about war or peace. This is a path into the future. We are not falling backwards. So I would like to call on all my fellow citizens to cast your vote on January 13 to support me and Bi Kim to let Lai Xiao win and give Taiwan a beautiful victory. Thank you.
The 2024 televised presidential debate has now come to an end. I would like to thank our three candidates, our live audiences, and all the viewers in front of the TV and online. I'm sure that all the voters through the presidential debate can now have a better understanding of the policies of each candidate. Democracy needs to be deepened and it needs to be improved. All three candidates in the form of debate has shown our democracy has moved on to a new chapter. I hope that through our work together, we can forge ahead for a new Taiwan. Good luck to all of you, and I hope everything goes well for Taiwan. Thank you.
That brings us to the end of the Taiwan presidential TV debate. We heard that three candidates, Ching-te of the DPP, Hou You-yi of the KMT, and Wen-je of the TPP, on why they should be Taiwan's next president.
Now we are joined by two experts, Courtney Donovan-Smith, ICRT Radio Central Taiwan correspondent, and a former Ancient Taichung chair, and Taiwan news columnist, and Yan Zhenshen, National Zhengjing University professor of political science, to provide an in-depth analysis of this debate, concentrating on assessing the candidates' performance and the substance of their presentations.
Let's go to a short break. Stay with us.
Taiwan votes for a future after President Tsai.
A new leader to manage ties with Washington and Beijing.
And find balance in a volatile region. In an election that could reshape our world.
TaiwanPlus, your guide in uncertain times.
Bringing you analysis from Taiwan and abroad.
Immediate reactions as the results roll in.
And a deep dive into Taiwan's future.
Join us on election night for our live specials, Taiwan Talks, Taiwan Votes, and Taiwan Connects, only on TaiwanPlus.
For more stories about animals in Taiwan, follow TaiwanPlus on Facebook and Twitter or download the TaiwanPlus app.
There's so many things that I wish the world could see.
It is amazing to watch this captain maneuver this giant ship.
It takes 3 days to cook this. The flavor is unbelievable, incredible.
And it's my turn to make something inspired by Chef Guo. It's going to be quite a challenge.
Can you imagine that?
It's surreal, yet so real. I can't give up. I got some ass kicking to do.
Nice move.
We're pushing each other to explore and experiment in new, different ways.
5, 4, 3, 2.
A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News.
Exploring the issues that matter to you.
Not just to Taiwan, the whole world is watching.
很多时候是我们眼睛看不到的地方。
We might encounter mishaps and mistakes along the way. But at the end of the day,
it just transmits something straight from the heart.
Yes.
Cheers. Bon appetit.
It is about the fun and it's about the glamour and it's also about something much deeper than that.
Sometimes you just gotta seize the opportunity. You just gotta do it.
Have a place where you're appreciated for you exactly as you are and where you can shine and be seen.
Hello and welcome to this special edition of Taiwan Talks live from the TaiwanPlus studio here in Taipei. I'm Ian Kavat.
And I'm Albert Cho. We are bringing you analysis of the Taiwan presidential TV debate, where we heard the policy positions of Ching-te of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, Hou You-yi of the main opposition party, the Kuomintang, KMT, and Wen-je of the Taiwan People's Party, TPP.
Which of these candidates will best fill the shoes of outgoing President Tsai Ing-wen, who steps down after 2 terms in May 2024?
And how will the next president shape Taiwan's relations with China and the US, and what will that mean for the future of Taiwan Strait and the region?
Joining us to discuss the presidential debate are Courtney Donovan-Smith, ICRT Radio Central Taiwan correspondent and former AmCham Taichung chair and Taiwan News columnist, and Yen-je Sun, National Ching-te University Professor of Political Science.
A very warm welcome to both on the show.
In today's presidential debate, the spotlight was on cross-strait policies, with all 3 candidates showing openness to dialogue with China. Ching-te of the DPP emphasized his presidency would carry the least risk, aiming to preserve the current situation.
Hou You-yi said his stance rejected both Taiwanese independence and the one country, 2 systems framework. Meanwhile, Wen-je said he would serve as a mediator in US-China relations.
Professor Yen-je Sun, let me come to you first. So was there anything in today's debate that was unexpected, that was new? What were the defining moments?
Well, I thought, I have observed so many American presidential debates. So I thought this one, at least, we should bring up the issue of how each candidate offers so many we call, programs, benefits to the youth, and increase the budget for the long-term care and for defense, education, everything. Where do you get the money? I think in America, a lot of times when a candidate proposes new programs, they will say, we're going to raise certain tax or we will cut certain area. I never heard of anyone cutting anything, but just keep pouring money. So I thought the questioners will at least raise some issue about the fiscal responsibility here, but didn't hear anything.
So you believe that the candidates were not held accountable for these promises?
Wen-je did mention that he tried to balance the budget. As a mayor, he saved a lot of money, but he never mentioned about how, as a presidential candidate, that what he would do.
Donovan, so with the candidates, did anybody perform particularly well or particularly bad for you?
Well, this is what I found interesting. I was looking at the performances of all 3, and basically what I think people are going to take away is that whoever they already support, they're going to think won it. I didn't feel like there was a standout candidate who did spectacularly well over the others. I thought all of them put in a pretty solid performance. And I think that this will be good for shoring up the base of each one. But I don't see that people are going to go, yeah, that candidate did better, even though I might not vote for him. I don't think that it's changed anybody's minds.
So it's not going to move the needle for you in terms of the election, influencing swing voters or undecided voters.
What I think it mostly will do is I think it will solidify the bases that they already have. Now, as far as swing voters, that's such a diverse group of people. What they're going to take away from each of the candidates is kind of hard to predict because they are so diverse and they're not at all homogenous. So I think all three of the candidates have a good shot at winning over some new voters, but it could be any of the three.
Okay, so regarding the China policy, so do two of you think that the three candidates actually reflect a significant alignment among themselves? Because we know that William Lai, even himself, expressed the friendliness, if you will, with the possibility to talk to President Xi. Or are there any notable distinction in their approaches? Maybe Professor Yan.
Well, I think all three candidates talk about maintaining the status quo, right? But in order to achieve status quo, either you negotiate with the Beijing or you don't, right? You don't, then Beijing will look at Taiwan saying, if you continue to refuse, then you are pursuing an independence road. But if we claim that we want just status quo only, then Beijing think, you're just following the U.S. and not, maintaining, ruling out the possibility of unification, then they will not accept. So it is a difficult one. How do you maintain status quo? I think the three candidates never offer us a strategy of successful confirmation that they will be able to achieve this. This is what everybody wants, but what is the process that you're going to achieve status quo? I think this is where in Taiwan we need to find out. Even if we, like in 1992 consensus, even if we pretend to formally acknowledge one China, just like U.S. acknowledge there's, it's one China policy, but you don't have to follow it. But by admitting there's only one China there, then at least you can negotiate for status quo. But if you reject that, then I think there is no possibility there.
Right, because from the CCP's perspective, the so-called status quo is the least option that President Xi will want. What about you, Donovan?
Well, what's interesting is there's a narrative out there that there's been a lot of convergence among the parties, and that they're all the same now, basically. I disagree with that strongly. But if you do say compare it to the early 1990s, then yes, they do sound much more similar than they did back then, of course. But however, I think there are still very significant differences between the three parties and their stances. Now, obviously, William Lai wants to continue with the path that Tsai Ing-wen has forged, and he's very explicitly said that's exactly what he plans to do. So that would be probably more of the same. However, if he becomes the president, any change to the current status quo, which is different than it was in years past, that would come from the Chinese side. Now, you've got Hou Yu-ih, of course, and he's supporting the 1992 consensus, which is deeply unpopular with the electorate. Now, he's trying to sort of play some word games with this. He's saying that he opposes one country, two systems, and will not accept that. The problem he has there is that Xi Jinping, on January 2nd in 2019, tied one country, two systems to the 1992 consensus. So depending on how that's interpreted, he's basically either not accepting the 1992 consensus, or, so the question there is, would the Chinese side accept that? He also says that he wants to follow the Constitution, which defines, of course, that means that there can be no unification because the Republic of China is the Constitution, and so therefore it can't. There's no unification.
Right. Professor Yan, I actually have a follow-up quick for you. Is that do you have any suggestion to KMT regarding Xi Jinping's link between 92 consensus and one country, two system?
Well, I think first of all, KMT should insist that this is a term that coined by Taiwan by the KMT, right? So it is China first rejected and later they embrace it. So it's not like, Taiwan is embracing something offered by China. This is something Taiwan offered first. And then KMT first reject it and then come back to it. This is not bad. Maybe we should embrace it. So I think this is the one people have misunderstood this particular term. Yes, a lot of people felt this is too old, but think of this. In Taiwan, if we want to insist on certain principle, we cannot have things just keep changing. Look at the US, look at Israel, look at China. They offer a policy position they stick with for decades. And we, even though we are a democracy, political party come and change, but still there are certain things that we should adhere to so that we can negotiate with the other side. If we don't want to negotiate, fine, but then cut off all the trade relation with China. That's my offer, saying, we have nothing to do with Beijing. We have nothing to do with mainland. So cutting off the tourists, cutting off all kinds of trade. From days on, we're going to embrace Southeast Asia, European markets, Northeast Asia, or United States.
Professor, could you define the 1992 consensus?
Well, 1992 consensus is like, both sides acknowledge there's only one China, but you can have different interpretation. And it is because of this acknowledgement of one China, just like every country in the world saying there is only one China. They have different China policy, so you can have different interpretation. So what I'm trying to say is, if we set different interpretation, we are actually in line with the US, with Japan, with European Union, because every time they said they care about the security of Taiwan Strait, but they also said our one China policy does not change.
Let me bring Donovan in. So actually on Taiwan Talks this week, political scientist Ian Jia-Chong says that for Taiwan, there is a danger in agreeing to the 1992 consensus because in order to have dialogue with China, because Beijing has never actually acknowledged the second part of the one of 1992 consensus, which is that there are different interpretations for what is one China, and that at any time, Beijing, if Taiwan agreed, Beijing could hold Taiwan to account and say that there is only one China and the PRC is the sole government.
There needs to be two or three distinctions made here. So yes, the KMT's interpretation is that there is one China, so they accept the one China principle, but then they tacked on both sides with their own interpretation. The PRC's version of the 1992 consensus is there is one China, and they've linked it to one country, two systems. So they're really kind of talking at cross purposes, but they both agree on the one China principle. Now, the US one China policy acknowledges that China thinks that Taiwan is part of China, but that's a little bit like saying, oh, I have a nice tie, don't I? I acknowledge you think you have a nice tie. It's not the same as actually agreeing with it. So there's a big difference between the one China policy and the one China principle. And a lot of other countries have similar wording to the United States. So now you asked about the risks. The problem is, yes, as soon as you accept the 1992 consensus, or more fundamentally than that, the one China principle, then that does compromise to a certain degree Taiwan's sovereignty. And that helps back Taiwan into something of a corner, which is the primary objection that William Lai has to it and the DPP. Wen-je's primary problem with the 1992 consensus is quite different. It's because it's unpopular in Taiwan, not because he's not willing to accept it, which is an interesting distinction.
And so renaming it what does that achieve? Which is something that he's
Well,
called for.
that's what he's hoping will happen. The problem is that China won't accept anything other than accepting the one China principle as a basis for talks. There's just no way they will accept anything else.
Professor.
But I do think, when Taiwan and China, we talk about one China, but I don't think KMT purposely mentioned one China principle. So that's why I'm saying, if the U.S. one China policy at different places, it's all we call one China, different interpretation. So if you look at also saying, the both sides.
But does Beijing accept that?
Well, Beijing will not accept, but they will not deny saying, KMT is wrong not to say one China principle. It's just like the U.S. and China right now. After Xi and Biden's meeting, or all kinds of meeting, you look at the readout, both are different, right? But they never say, oh, I didn't say that, or we didn't have that. So in a way, they have different interpretation of a summit meeting. But there is also mutual non-denial of the others saying.
Well, I think the ambiguity was intentionally made back to when. But anyway, let's come back to the public opinion in Taiwan. Ke Wen-je of the TPP actually highlighted the opinion polls. He said that in the debate that 90% of the Taiwanese people favor keeping the status quo regarding the cross-strait relations. Consequently, the stance of preserving the status quo has become a very key strategy, both him and Ching-te in managing cross-strait affairs. So these developments actually prompts an analysis of Ching-te's evolving viewpoints, something new we seemingly see in this debate. How does Ching-te shift from previously aligned with the Taiwanese independence? Maybe he himself is not openly saying that out loud now because this is during a campaign, but he's regarded in that stance. Now kind of shift to a willingness to engage with the China affect his political strategy and approach to the cross-strait relations.
I noticed that Ke highlighted the numbers probably are coming from the NCCU polls. So Ke Wen-je's stance has definitely shifted. I mean, he's shifting, but he doesn't seem to be knowing quite where he's going with this. And so when the candidates all talk about the status quo, there's a little bit of a problem with talking about the status quo because nobody's really defining it very well. And I think all the three candidates have a slightly different view of what that means. Because the status quo that existed, say, in the 1990s or the 1980s, it was very different in the 1980s than it was in the 90s. And of course, particularly since when Nancy Pelosi visited, the status quo has changed again. And each time it's the Chinese side that's changing it. So I think the difference between the three candidates when they talk about the status quo, I think each of the three candidates has a slightly different meaning. I think William Lai is talking about it as it is now, whereas I think Hou Yu-ih wants to turn back the clock to the Ma era, which he views as the status quo when relations were considerably warmer between Taiwan and China. And Ke, I don't really know how he defines the status quo, because as far as I know, I've never heard him actually come out and give us a clear idea of what he means by that.
Oh, I think the status quo eventually will be defined by the U.S. because the U.S. is the one that decides if there is a military conflict across the Taiwan Strait, that which side unilaterally changed the status quo. So if China changed the status quo, but we think China changed, U.S. doesn't think China changed, and then attack Taiwan, U.S. said, no, China didn't change the status quo, so I'm not going to come to your assistance. So if China think Taiwan changed the status quo and attack Taiwan, but U.S. said, no, Taiwan didn't change the status quo, then U.S. has strong justification to send military force to help Taiwan. So eventually, I think it would depend on the U.S. and China relation. So when we try to define our status quo, I think at the end, it's all decided by Washington,
Professor,
D.C.
would you help us to understand that whether Lai Ching-te's kind of shifting stance like this is going to help him in a campaign?
Well, my observation is always this, U.S. probably trusts Hou Youyi more than, venture out of, the different policy, came out with a different policy. Wen-je is very unpredictable. Himself trying to embrace China's policy. But I think there is still some reservation because he called himself a Taiwan independent.
All right, thank you. So now let's have a break, and then we can continue the discussion after advertisement.
You're watching a special edition of Taiwan Talks, and we're bringing you analysis of the presidential election debate. So let's go.
For a future after President Tsai.
New leader to manage time and find balance in an election that could reach
TaiwanPlus, your guide in uncertain times.
bringing you analysis from Taiwan and abroad.
Immediate reaction as the results roll in.
And deep dive into Taiwan too.
On election night for our live Taiwan Taiwan votes, and Taiwan connects. Only TaiwanPlus.
As Taiwan votes for its next president, the stakes are high.
It's the election about Taiwan's future. It could impact the world. How do Taiwan strategy matter for Asia, United States, and beyond?
Join us for analysis of Taiwan
On Taiwan election special, only on TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is voting for a future after President Tsai. TaiwanPlus has reporters on the ground.
There's no reaction as the results roll in.
Watching. Election night for our live special, Taiwan.
Welcome back to Taiwan Talks as we discuss the Taiwan presidential TV debate between Lai Ching-te of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, Hou Youyi of the main opposition party, the Kuomintang, KMT, and Wen-je of the Taiwan People's Party. Let me come to them first. So this week, it was the 130th anniversary of Mao Zedong's death, and at that event, Xi Jinping once again stressed that unification with Taiwan is inevitable. And of course, he said the same thing to Joe Biden last month. And he plans to do this peacefully or by force. Do you think that this was adequately taken on board, incorporated into the candidates' China policies during this debate?
I don't think that it had that much of an impact. And the reason I say that is because this kind of language is not new. So you look at a lot of, say, the Western media, and they gave this a lot of play. And the reason they did that is because they haven't heard this kind of talk for so long.
But the timing during election campaign.
Yes. Well, obviously it's part of China's pressure campaign. And you'll notice that in this debate, the whole issue of China and issues related to China dominated. It was, I think as a percentage, my guess it was roughly about 70% was in some form or another related to China or their home properties. So I do think that these comments by Xi possibly influenced the reporters' questions, which were heavily related to the China issue. I also noticed that the candidates, even when they were asked questions on other topics, did at various times pivot back to China-related topics. So, I don't know if there's a one-to-one correlation, but I did get the sense that it may have helped influence the amount of debate. It just is part of that general atmosphere. Not necessarily specific to that comment, but that comment contributes to this general tense atmosphere. And so I think that was really felt in the debate.
Professor Yan, can there be mutual respect between Taiwan and China? If China wants to take Taiwan, Taiwan doesn't want that to happen.
Well, I think, I have offered before, I have talked about this, is that if Taiwan proposed that we want unification, but by our terms, which China would never agree, but China can never accuse Taiwan, pursuing independence. We can argue we want independence, we want freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, freedom of petition. China said crazy, but we said, but we want unification. So this is my answer to having a plan for maintaining status quo, because China can never agree with our offer. So we maintain status quo. That's my argument. But for people in Taiwan right now, either DPP talk about wanting to talk to China, but not under the 1992 consensus. If you are capable, if you think you can convince Beijing side, why don't you just first start to talk using 92 consensus and arguing we don't agree with this consensus, and I am going to come up with a new consensus that we can engage in the future. But I think the DPP is avoiding China because this is a politically expedient and also basically good basic election strategy. Kuomintang, I think, eventually will be more innovative on this one, coming up with something.
Okay, let's bring back the role of the United States. Okay, but probably we'll enter the break really soon. But just kind of let me finish up a question, and maybe you can answer the question after break. In addressing the complexities of U.S.-China-Taiwan relations, Wen-je actually emphasized that Taiwan should not act as a pawn in the U.S.-China interactions, but instead serve as a bridge. He specifically mentioned that. So based on the discourse in today's debate, featuring the three candidates, what diplomatic challenges might the incoming president expect to face? None of it.
Okay, so the incoming president, the three candidates, I think the Ke's talk aligns more with Ho's. Both of them have talked about, Ho has talked about being in the middle between the two and having equal relations with both, not siding to one or the other. Ho has said that's the ideal, but under current circumstance, need to align closer to the U.S.
Professor Yan.
Oh, well, I think, Ho is more in the line of U.S. policy, but Ke is less predictable. But Ke also offers something that is really strange, because he talked about Taiwan doesn't need any diplomatic ally. I think this is a very different one. Does that mean China can easily take our diplomatic ally, or there's no diplomatic truce at all?
Okay, we've just heard all three candidates set out their policy positions on China, foreign relations, defense, and the economy. Now it's up to you to decide which presidential candidate is most.
For more stories about animals in Taiwan, follow TaiwanPlus on Facebook and Twitter, or download the TaiwanPlus app.
There's so many things that I wish the world could see.
It is amazing to watch this captain maneuver this giant ship.
It takes 3 days to cook this. The flavor is unbelievable, incredible.
And it's my turn to make something inspired by Chef Gore. It's going to be quite a challenge.
Can you imagine that?
It's surreal. Yes, so real. I can't give up. I got some ass kicking to do.
Nice move. We're pushing each other to explore and experiment in new, different ways.
5, 4, 3, 2.
A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News.
Exploring the issues that matter to you.
Not just to Taiwan, the whole world is watching.
很多时候是我们眼睛看不到的地方。
You encounter mishaps and mistakes along the way. And at the end of the day,
it just transmits something straight from the heart.
Yeah. Cheers.
Bon appetit.
It is about the fun and it's about the glamour and it's also about something much deeper than that.
Sometimes you just gotta seize the opportunity. You just gotta do it.
Have a place where you're appreciated for you exactly as you are, and where you can shine and be seen.
"连第一艘潜舰要盖完成都非常非常的困难。
听为瑞，没有反省，没有检讨，说呢，个杀鸡的话不然。